to the 10.
I knew you were on.
All right, everyone. It is a wave weather alert day. Meteorologist Goode alongside here with Kevin Harned and Ryan Hoke. We are tracking, of course, these thunderstorms rolling in from the west, producing some severe weather. We're going to be monitoring that setup carefully as this line of storms moves in from the west. So we're going to kind of just guide you through this as we're getting some reports that the winds have been up there close to about 55 miles per hour. In fact, measured at 55 miles per hour. Several reports of some tree damage down in that area as well. And, of course, a lot of lightning. So let me show you the radar view, and this is where we're at as of right now. And this is where we're standing with at least some warnings that are out close to the Evansville area. We do not have any warnings around the wave country. Again, this has not arrived fully into wave country just yet. It's getting close. Right now, it looks like Du Bois County would be first, although there's a couple of cells trying to form very close to Tell City, heading toward Perry County. We'll be watching that as it heads off to the east. We're very unstable right now across central areas of Indiana and right around Louisville as well as this line moves into the region. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch that is out to the encompasses everybody all the way through the 8 o'clock hour. So this is everybody that's right now in the wave country will be in that watch area, again, for the potential for some damaging winds as it rolls on through. Very heavy rainfall and even a chance to get some flash flooding again. I don't think it's going to be anything what we had as far as a repeat of yesterday when it came to the storms kind of just sitting on us, producing rainfall rates of 2 to 5 inches per hour. We do not see that kind of a threat, but we do see certainly the potential for some heavy rain for a while that will impact when it comes to travel in the area. Rainfall rates will be so intense. Again, it's going to be more of a blinding rainfall. Question, of course, is going to be how the storms evolve as we head through this afternoon and evening. We're thinking right now it's going to be very close to the Louisville area in the 4 o'clock hour. 4 to 5 o'clock, it looks to be the time period for it to arrive into Louisville, but Indiana will likely be first to experience the first round of showers and storms moving through the area. And again, a bit of a Boeing segment, although it's tried to weaken the past couple of scans. Will that hold? That's a good question. Something we'll be monitoring as it moves right into Martin County and eventually into Lawrence County, into Indiana. And again, the southern flank of this is still the most intense. Look how intense that lightning is at the moment. We're getting, I mean, so far in the image you're seeing is roughly about over 1,000 lightning strikes. But right now, the majority of that is in the clustered on the southern side of that as it moves toward the Evansville area at a pretty good clip. I mean, overall, they're moving about 40 to 45 miles per hour off to the east, producing, again, that potential for some strong damaging winds. They're issuing a couple flood advisories as well. We're seeing that across southwest Indiana. I think we'll see that as well as these storms move through. The ground is quite saturated, of course. We've had a tremendous amount of rain in the past 4 days. Some areas up to 7 to 8 inches, especially across central Kentucky. That has been the rain total this week. We will continue to hold on again to that heavier rainfall as it moves off to the east. But the main concern we're going to have as we head through the next 2 to 3 hours especially is just a wall of wind coming through, heavy rainfall, intense lightning. Severe weather is still the possibility as it moves into the area. Whether or not we get damage out of that, we don't know. But that potential is certainly there. And it's already done damage. The question is, will we see this intensify even more as it heads toward the I-65 corridor? That's a big question. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned is standing by. He's been monitoring this as well. Kevin, this is day 4 of this. A bit different of a scenario with this one as it moves in. I think more of a wind issue and lightning as it moves on by. Questions how this will evolve for the next couple of hours, but this is no doubt a big talker today, how this is rolling in. And it's hot. We should mention that, too. I mean, heat index is about 104 right now in Louisville.
That's a big factor in all of this. The high pressure out to our west, we're on the edge of that. That is the ring of fire we've talked about. Train tracks set up almost where these disturbances roll down right on the backside of that high pressure and push through. Our entire viewing area is under a severe thunderstorm watch. You'll notice there are no warnings. Ryan's pointed that out. There are no warnings. But one thing that we will be watching will be where you see this area bowing out. Now, you say, well, why are there no warnings? At this point, this is weakening just a bit. But there's a pause here because as this storm moves into southern Indiana, it's going to be moving into a more favorable environment to see an uptick in both wind and forward propagation, which would mean that we are going to see the opportunity for this to elevate itself back up and possibly become severe. Another part of this are these storms trying to fire out ahead of it. We'll have to watch those closely as well. Those could become supercells which rotate. If that happens, obviously that introduces more of a tornado threat and that's a possibility as well, though it's a very low possibility, something we'll be watching. Now, we're not the only ones watching the storms. We have 113 stations across the United States, and our sister station over in Evansville, they've been on the air tracking these storms. I can show you Jeff Lyons there over in Evansville. He's tracking that storm right across Posey County, approaching their area, and that's moving right into Evansville. So you can see our colleagues hard at work making sure their viewers are safe. It's the same storm. Watching from Evansville, you're watching Jeff Lyons with Channel 14 there. And again, severe thunderstorm warnings out there. That's what's going on out to our west. Back here at home, again, there are no severe storms, no warnings in our viewing area, but we expect that to change. So why are we on? A lot of people always ask that question because sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. What dictates that? Well, first of all, we have the Olympics on, so it's harder to get your attention during the Olympics. So we're just providing a constant flow of information. As we're watching it, you're watching it. We're getting our shows together for 5, 6, 7, and 11. So if you take a look at the storm, the whole storm tracking team over there by Brian, you'll see Ryan's working on graphics for our later shows. Carson is keeping an eye on the SkyTrack cameras and updating the app and everything that goes into making sure we can get you the forecast. And Brian and I are just delivering this weather information to you so you know what's going on right now. And the answer is not a lot right now, but we expect that to change. Let's talk about why we expect that to change. And Brian's looking at some of the data in terms of the available energy as these storms move across southern Indiana and northern Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we refer to as always the Cape and the fuel. So here's the radar view. Let me show you the fuel now as these storms roll in. And that's what we're talking about, that bright, that goldness there. The fuel is there. It's hot and humid dew points. We talk about this, the measure of the moisture that's in the air outside, running into the upper 70s and lower 80s. That is extremely high. You don't see that often, and we've had that a few days in a row now. So the atmosphere is loaded with a lot of moisture in the area as it moves into the area. The question is going to be, and it's because this little complex of storms, you can see where the fuel gets ate alive right there near the Wabash, where the center of the actual low pressure is. That's a mini low. MCS, we call that, moving on by. We've seen a lot of these kind of roll into the area. As this rolls on by, it is moving into an environment again where it's very humid outside. We certainly have got the lift with that low moving into the area, and it's its own machine as it moves on by, which is where it gets a little more complex when they do have to create their own environment. As how will that evolve the next few moments? We're starting to see, as we get to the radar view, some of those isolated cells, and this is going to be key because I think this portion of it is going to continue to have a struggle on its intensity, but ahead of that line, because we're getting the wind from this line, the main line is pushing out so far ahead of it that it's creating a mini cold front, if you will, and that is allowing for additional cells to fire up in advance of it. And that is going to be the challenge we've got over the next couple of hours. This is not a major event. This is not I wouldn't call this even a significant event, but I do think we're going to end up with some warnings as it moves on by just because of the wind fields we've got, especially west of I-65. That's the biggest concern. I will say, Kevin, if we're looking at the data, once it gets to I-65, and just after, we should see a weakening. The wind fields do drop. We also will be later into the day. So the areas east of 65, you know, you're under the severe thunderstorm watch. I do have a big question mark on that, on the eastern side of this. But the western side of the metro, between Louisville and Evansville, that's the area we still need to monitor.
Yeah, that's for sure. We can see those cells already popping along that outflow that you pointed out. That's the zone that we'll be watching right there over the course of the next couple of hours, really. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get through here. And as we, let me just move the radar back over, you'll see that cluster of storms, again, bowing out on the north side. Could trigger a warning at any moment. These storms are moving at the east at about 40 miles an hour. So they're pushing off to the east at 40. You can see out ahead of that, let me go back to the drawing feature. You'll see out ahead of that where that mini cold front, as Brian explained it, that's the outflow boundary. We're seeing storms pop along that. So we expect another, more development along that zone as it moves into southern Indiana. So some of the harder hit areas in terms of wind may eventually be places like Paoli, Salem, Court, and Brandenburg, Hardinsburg, as this storm moves off to the east at about 40 miles an hour. All of this part of a much larger picture across the country, but this is the one we're watching. Much like yesterday, the day before, and the day before, we had have these pieces of energy producing very similar aspects on the radar. Heavy amounts of lightning, tremendous amount of rain, and some areas with winds strong enough to do some damage. We've had trees down in a number of places from where this initially has pushed through. Now, obviously, the greatest concentration of lightning is to the south. That's where we have the strongest part of that storm, hence the severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Posey County as that drifts off to the east and slightly to the southeast. Let's go over to Ryan Hoke.
Yeah, it's important to point out what these storms have done so far. You see the storm reports out across southwest Indiana and southern Illinois. I'll query a few of these here, and you'll see that Princeton, Gibson County, Indiana, report of large tree limbs down. If we query another one of these along the Wabash River here, you'll notice that was a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust there. We'll see some damage, of course, just to the north of that, a little closer to Vincennes. That was Vincennes University, believe it or not, in Knox County. They had a tree down, time estimated from radar about 2:34 Eastern this afternoon. And then finally back in southern Illinois here, we'll be able to query another one of these reports, and you'll see that as it still pops on the screen here, it's going to try to, that we've got, there we go, tree down from radar as well. So trees down, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Again, this is southwest Indiana, southern Illinois, and all of these reports coming in within the last hour or so. So we're going to continue to monitor these storms to see if they try to kick back up with some of the instability in front of them. But Kevin, right now, it looks like just a couple of warnings that we've been tracking so far.
Yeah, I'm just checking a few of the wind measurements back out that way. Again, it has weakened just a bit. You can see the latest warning coming in. However, as it bows out, this speaks to what we were talking about as it moves into that unfavorable environment, or favorable, however you want to look at that, favorable for storm development. As it moves into southern Indiana, these are going to continue to intensify. It's the reason that we've decided to sort of just stay on with you as these storms track through. I fully suspect we're going to see more warnings coming out along this line, especially on this Boeing segment to the north, and where you have that cluster of lightning and the stronger cells to the south. Oftentimes the southern storms are the strongest, and then eventually we'll have to watch these storms that are getting their acts together. Notice the lightning increasing right along the Ohio River, just off not far from the Owensboro area. These two will be tracking to the east. They're all moving at about 40 miles per hour as they push to the east. So the latest warning coming out, that's Davis County, Greene, Martin counties until 4 o'clock this afternoon. So a 45-minute warning on that. That would bring it right into our area just before 45 minutes. That takes us to 4 o'clock. So right at the 4 o'clock time frame, should be getting close to parts of Lawrence and Orange counties. Obviously, Du Bois County is going to see this first. It is a little bit weaker just across Du Bois County, but nonetheless, Brian, some heavy rain will fall, though it looks like a pretty narrow band. So as we pointed out, this is more of a wind maker than a flooding maker for today. Yeah,
exactly. And it won't take much to cause at least brief issues, especially in the Louisville area. I think that's going to be a bit of a problem for a moment as these pass on by. We may have some hydroplane issues and flash flooding. We'll be watching that. Let's talk about the fuel again, because that's what I'm really focused on, is really how much energy these are going to kick. And one of the things that's going to drive this is, of course, the amount of moisture that we've got in the air. First off, temperatures outside. This is a short-term headline because we've got a heat advisory out just southwest of Louisville into western Kentucky once again. But 91 degrees in Louisville now, 91 in Bedford. You guys in Bedford, Lawrence County, you're about to experience a storm where, again, the Weather Service wanted to point out in Indianapolis, they feel that 60-mile-per-hour winds are going to be a bigger threat as it approaches getting close to Davis County into parts of Lawrence County there. All right, look at these dew points. This is a measure of moisture in the air. You get to 60 to 65, you notice that. You're going to feel the humidity outside. You get to 70, now you're like, okay, this is a little bit much. I'm not sure I'm going to do any errands outside. You get to 75 for a dew point, you really are feeling it. You can actually see it. It looks more of a haze into the tree line especially. And you got dew points now, according coming in at 83 for a dew point. Now, the highest Louisville's ever been is 83, by the way, and we haven't gotten to that level, and I don't see us getting to that level. We're currently at 75, but it's certainly up there. So when you combine that with the temperatures, outside feels like 102 in Louisville, 107 in Bedford. Now, Corden, that 83 may be a bit high because it's coming at 116 degrees right now for the temperature there, but I think you guys get the point. we're going to be facing at least an environment that is going to be certainly going to get your attention. The cloud cover got the attention of everyone yesterday. You're going to see some wicked looking clouds as it moves by. It's going to look very scary. So we want to make sure we're trying to explain to you what's going on, hopefully calm your nerves too, and letting you know that wow, it's going to look really ominous as it rolls on through. Not all areas are going to get that severe wind threat, but some will. And wind damage has been reported with this. In fact, it's been very common with this entire structure. Wind damage has taken place. It's just been pulsing up and down as it's crossing in the Wabash into Indiana. And that cell, Kevin, it's going to be a threat soon heading into Perry County is one we'll be watching carefully because it is powering up and it is producing quite a bit of lightning too.
Yeah, I want to rewind back to the dew points. 83, the highest in Louisville. That's rare because we don't have as much vegetation. Now, you get out into some of our farming communities, places like Corydon, we can throw a little more moisture into the air because the crops give off some of that moisture. The trees, the grasses, everything that we have that's green provides some moisture content. So that's why oftentimes, even in the outlying areas, we see these extreme dew points giving us these very high heat index values of 110 plus. So you've got to be mindful of that on days like today. Quickly, a quick glance, and we're updating this, so I'll give you another view coming up in the next hour or so. But we do have calmer weather moving in. The front actually passes by tomorrow. Lower rain chances into the weekend, so keep that in mind. In the meantime, we are tracking severe storms just out to the west of us. We have the severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 8 o'clock. The one warning that we currently have on our map butts right up against our communities in Lawrence County and Orange County and just to the north of Du Bois County. It's that bowing nature that we have on that sort of apex of that storm. And I'll zoom into that for you. And then we'll take a look at some of the other reports to see if we're getting any problems out of the storm. That's always a precursor of what's to come, is what has just happened with the storm. Again, it's pretty obvious that you can see the bowing segment. What causes that? The forward motion, the momentum of the storm itself. While it's moving at 40 miles an hour, it's pushing. And that is that sort of leading edge. And that's where we would have the strongest winds. Now passing by moving right along US 231 pretty much right now. So those winds would be just ahead of that leading edge. So Halbert should be on standby. Du Bois, Jasper, Huntingburg, likely going to see some wind out of this, but the strongest is just to your north as we look at the radar. Now, when we look at the velocity part of this, the wind, that gives us a different type of a view. We can see some of the brighter colors. That's an indicator of where we have the strongest wind occurring. There's nothing too obnoxious with that, but it's clear that on that leading edge, they are a little brighter, and that's where we have the strongest winds. I mentioned Barr, the strongest winds now passing you, but moving over toward 231. Additional storms are firing up out ahead of this, and those require watching as well. So back to our radar view and then back to our home view just to point out what we have going on across our area. Notice the lightning along that entire line of storms. Once this starts to move in and as these other storms start to pop, you're going to have to just give it a break outside. If you got one happening near you, seek shelter, let these storms pass, mainly because of the lightning, but also in some cases because of the wind. And that wind has caused some problems. Let's go over to Ryan Hoke for an update on that.
Yeah, a lot of folks are asking on YouTube and Facebook right now, what about the timing for your specific city? So I have some specific timings here based on a 40-mile-per-hour forward speed here. Hello, Louisville. About 5:10 p.m. is when this will arrive. That is in the middle of the evening rush. The evening rush here in the city may be a mess. Even if there's not a severe thunderstorm warning on these as they're moving through, blinding rainfall, you get the idea. Never a good thing. Traffic's going to get snarled. Madison, 5:28. Let's back up. Scottsburg, 4:55 this evening. Salem, 4:28. Bedford, Indiana, 4:06. Patoka Lake at 3:44. And finally, Jasper. This is literally on your doorstep here. Within about the next 5 or so minutes, you'll start to see impacts from this. So these are the specific times that you folks here on social media are looking for. Hopefully that helps you out.
All right, let's go over to Brian. I see they've just put out the flood warning for that storm approaching the Evansville area. A ton of lightning with that. And boy, some heavy rain, too. We have had flooding problems, even though wind's the bigger deal. We have had some areas that have seen flooding. I was just looking back at some of those reports.
Yeah, in fact, they're going with 1 to 2 inches so far that's fallen out of that particular band, but additional amounts of 1 to 2 could fall. And that's the reason why they issued that flash flood warning. That cell is just absolutely nasty. and it is diving southeast, and that will be the trend on this, more southeast than due east. So right now we're thinking this is going to be more of an Owensboro issue. We'll see what happens. And then this storm is right on Evansville, so it'll be interesting to see what Evansville reports as far as the wind gusts. They have obviously gauges there at their airport. You can actually see the wind. If you look carefully, you can see the gust itself out ahead of it. So the wind likely already has hit Evansville, passing on by. And then you see that cell popping in advance. In fact, we got several cells that are trying to pop down in environment. None of these are severe, but they're growing in height. So certainly they're going to get your attention. You may notice even looking outside, the cumulus clouds more than likely are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger out your window there as this moisture gets scooped up as this MCS moves into the area. With the showers and thunderstorms moving through. Let's see, they got a statement. Let's see what they're issuing. Okay, it's for northern and central Indiana. They're thinking about issuing another watch there for storms. I just want to mention that. I saw that alert come on by. All right, so these are moving on at a decent clip. There are different speeds varying here along this line. Some areas it's about 25 miles per hour, especially in the central portion of that. And then you get into the northern part, that's moving at a good 45 miles per hour, heading right into Bedford. This is still blowing out, so we still need to monitor that as it moves into Lawrence County, to Orange County, and Paoli. I know Paoli, you've already got a few small thunderstorms that have popped right over you. We're watching those. But no doubt that line to your west, a little more of a concern there. And then as you get down toward around the Evansville area, that's where, again, we got the messy scenario there. Do we still have Evansville up, Kevin?
No, it's down right now.
It's down, okay. Because I'm sure they're busy because that's a lot going on there with a lot of lightning, heavy rain moving in. And here's the thing. I know we got the isolated cells moving through, but this is going to be fast. This is going to hit and move on out. This is not an all-night issue. This is not really going to carry you through much of the evening. I think this is only about an hour of your time that we're talking about here today that we'll have to battle this, and then we'll be hopefully in the clear, and that should be the trend the next couple of days.
Yeah, the Storm Prediction Center working hard, too, indicating that parts of Indiana likely going to be expanded under that watch. So we've seen many discussions coming in from both the local National Weather Service office as well as the national branches that serve us all, which includes the Storm Prediction Center. Again, the only warning we have is still away from our viewing area by just a bit, moving closer to Lawrence, Orange, and Jasper counties, or Du Bois County. That's where we find Bedford, Paoli, and Jasper, Indiana. You'll see that Boeing segment is the most of concern. That's where we have that forward push of wind, and then the storm causing the heavy rain and some wind down approaching the Evansville area. And you can see that's where the lightning is clustered the most. That is a powerful storm that's moving in with a tremendous amount of water. We have additional storms developing. Notice one on the line of Meade to Breckenridge County, additional storms, northern parts of Orange, southern Lawrence County. Let me take you on a little radar tour of those places. I'm just going to zoom in. Those are not, none of these are severe. We have no severe storms in our viewing area right now, but we anticipate that they will go severe. So it may take it another half hour, may take it another hour for these storms to move in and become that strong. But you get the idea of what we're watching as this moves into a very favorable environment. That's why these storms continue to grow across the region. And that's why we're seeing these storms near Mitchell, starting to get a little bit of lightning with those. Likewise, just off to the south and east of Orleans, southwest of Campbellsburg, that's off to the northeast of Paoli. So that's north of 150. And as we go a little farther to the south, Crawford County looking good. But we do have additional storms that are firing on just south of the river, not far from Irvington, right on that sort of county line from Meade County down into Breckenridge County. Irvington starting to see some development. The skies are darkening there. You know why? Not severe and not even a mature storm at this point, but it certainly will become as it continues to grow. We go back down to parts of Grayson County. You'll notice Rough River seeing a few downpours trying to just now get started. Seems like it always storms at Rough River, doesn't it? I grew up going there many weekends during the summertime and always seemed like it stormed there. Well, we have additional downpours going on back out to the west as well. All of this ahead of that main line. It's that push of wind that comes into this hot and humid atmosphere. And obviously the air can't go down, so it has to go up as that pushes through just like a wave would. When it goes up, it condenses and we can pop these thunderstorms pretty easily in the environment that we have going on now. So we're going to continue to see storm development back out to the west just ahead of that main line of thunderstorms. Again, severe thunderstorm warning to the north, flood warning along with severe thunderstorm warning approaching the Evansville area with some very heavy rainfall. Let's talk about some of the rainfall reports that we've had. These will be coming in since midnight. You'll notice across the entire viewing area, we have had the 24-hour total here in Louisville at about 1/3 of an inch. Areas to our south from this point yesterday on, so this is the 24-hour total, picking up almost 3 inches of rain. Shelbyville had 2 1/4, Carrollton 1 1/4 inches, Frankfort the same, Lexington 3/4 of an inch of rain, and we're now starting to add rain across southern Illinois and southwest Indiana, upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and they're adding another 1 to 2 inches to that. So it bodes well that they have the flash flood warning in place that comes right into the Evansville area. Additional storms to our north and across parts of Kentucky will be adding to these rain gauges as the afternoon wears on. Back to our radar view. And you're going to see that we do have downpours popping across southwest Indiana. Now, I wanted to point out, I'm going to go back to the temperatures. Power outages, none to speak of. I'm going to get back to the difference between, this is what I wanted to get to, was the SkyTrack cameras here. And you'll notice this is up at Starlight, so Hubert's Orchard Winery. Notice the different layers of clouds that we have going on. Obviously, you can tell just by looking, there's a ton of moisture in the atmosphere. We can see that based on just looking at the cloud cover. We can swing you through some of our cameras. In fact, we have 10 of these cameras strategically placed. We have full range of motion on these cameras, so we can look all the way around 360 degrees, and we can tilt up and down. So let me take you through some of our cameras. Starlight, Indiana. First of all, the one thing you notice, everything's green, right? They haven't had a problem. Of course, they water anyway, but they've had enough water this year. This is Bardstown. There's the St. Joe's Proto Cathedral. We are looking back to the west on this view. If we were to swing it around about 180 degrees, you'd see the Old Court Square. This is Corydon.
Well, while you're on Corydon, sorry to interrupt, Kevin.
Please.
Because the storm,
we're just talking, filling time. Well, yeah. You can interrupt all you want.
I'm looking at the, don't tell me that. All right, these are the, we're looking at cloud tops here, and I want to point out the storm that's going to be approaching toward Corydon. Right now, the height on this, and it's continuing to grow, is now 50,000 feet. And on the southern side of this, I've been watching it, it's still holding at about 50, but at times I saw a report briefly 57,000 feet in the air. So this is a very intense thunderstorm, very heavy rain and lightning, and probably some gusty winds of that. It's right there at that limit. We'll see if we get some wind down to the ground level. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's really the catalyst here. But when I animate this, again, you're looking at cloud cover and how everything's rising. Notice the rising motion that is happening with the cells into Orange County, parts of Washington County, also into Harrison County and Meade. You're starting to see everything beginning to bubble up. And we're still watching, of course, the one that's got the warning out. That is still maintaining. These cloud tops have not collapsed yet. They're still staying up. And that's the reason why I got a feeling that warning will likely get extended out a little more east. If we see this decrease, I think they would let that warning go. But right now, we'll see if that maintains. I'm sure they're also waiting to see if there's confirmation of what has happened in that area as well. Ryan Hoke is standing by with an update as well. Ryan, what you got?
Yeah, I wanted to show the visible satellite here to show how these storms went from nothing to everything very quickly here. You can see this almost explosion on the satellite view here from the cloud tops that Brian Goode was just showing you the data from there. But notice in front of these storms where you have some of this looking popcorn cumulus cloud action here, that's where we've got some of those front-running cells trying to blow up really on the edge of that. And you can see some of like almost these little popcorn features embedded within the big shield of clouds here that are those individual cells that we were just talking about there. So from space, this looks impressive, and that cloud shield, of course, continues to grow from that line of storms now moving into southwest Indiana, guys.
All right. I think it's important to let folks know this isn't a massive severe weather outbreak that we're dealing with here. Not at all. We are on with long form severe weather coverage on our streaming platforms. We typically stream on alert days frequently, so you know, and ahead of alert days, by the way, so you know what's coming your way. We're the only station that has the 24/7 weather channel. It's Wave Weather Now. You can get complete streaming information there, weather all the time with frequent live updates from our team. And this is just while the Olympics are going on, while folks are getting ready to get back to school, we said, you know what? Frankly, we have nothing better to do today than to sit here and give you weather information. It's what we do every day. We're just deciding to do it nonstop from our studio, which isn't always the case. Most of the time, we don't have all the fancy bells and whistles that we have because we have a team of people behind us, and we don't have an actual newscast going on right now, which we normally would at 3 o'clock. But because of the Olympics, we're in the studio, and we said, hey, let's just give the weather information that is helpful to folks at home. You can see the winds blowing the flags over at New Albany. This is right along the Riverwalk there. Some of those cumulus clouds forming. In fact, from Louisville, at that 50,000-foot storm, we'd typically be able to see it from here. Probably not today because it's a little on the hazy side because of the amount of moisture that we have in the atmosphere. But on a crystal clear day, if that storm were fired up out to the west, we'd be able to see the tops of that storm all the way from Louisville. So it just gives an idea of how tall that is when you're talking 50,000 feet. An airplane would never go through that all the way around it. You get blown apart if you went through that 50,000-foot storm. All right, this is, again, the view from our downtown SkyTrack camera. Let me point out, we don't have to necessarily worry about the tornado safe place, so I'm going to zoom past this. It's always in the center, lowest level, away from windows. That's a graphic we keep in. I want to talk about the difference between the watch that we have in place until 8 o'clock and a warning. Right now, we're just under the watch. It means severe weather is possible. The conditions are favorable for the development of these storms. And we have had some warnings to the west, and I suspect we'll have some warnings here, even though we don't at this point. Consequently, we've had no power outages. The storms have not arrived here at this point. Now, when we look at what's to come over the next few days, we do see a little bit of relief on the way with some drier weather by the weekend. That means lower humidity values coming our way. In the meantime, we're not there just yet. It's hot, it's humid. Our temperature at 91, heat index pushing closer to or above 105 in many locales. When you check the radar again, couple of things to notice, and it's always just 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Where we scan it, we look, we assess it, and we say, look at what's happening. And then we're looking at the atmospheric conditions to say, why is it happening and will it continue? So you can tell by looking at the radar view coming in out ahead of that storm, that push of air is starting to react to some of that very hot and humid air that we have in place across parts of Indiana and Kentucky. And these storms are developing.
Sorry, Kevin. They did issue a special weather statement just letting everyone 50,000-foot storm that will be heading into the area. Then also as you get into Orange County, potential for winds, they could get up to 50 or higher as well. So they're right at the higher end, close to warning level. And that's the reason why we got to watch those particular ones there.
All right. We'll take a look at that. A little closer view of that will show that that is the storm Brian was just mentioning. You'll notice that lightning on that storm, again, moving at about 40 miles an hour off to the east. Ryan?
Yeah, let's go through timing again. A lot of folks on social media, hello to our YouTube and our Facebook viewers here this afternoon asking, what time is it going to hit I-65? What time is it going to hit Louisville here? I want to give you an update if you're just tuning in here. I know folks are kind of going in and out of our live stream here. Louisville is just after 5 o'clock here. Now, this is for the main line of storms. I want to caution very heavily here. We have some of those front-running storms like the one west of Tell City right now that may arrive a little bit earlier in some spots. So here in Louisville, generally around to just after 5 o'clock here for that main line of storms should it survive. And then E-Town 601, Bardstown 621. The Louisville time does include, by the way, Shepherdsville. That would be around 5:20. Scottsburg 457, Palmyra 439. Finally, Tell City, it is pretty much arriving in your neck of the woods right now, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. Again, the timing is important. Folks want to know. They're trying to get some errands ran. You got to know when the storms are going to arrive. We do have some that are popping. Those will be rogue. That means we can't tell exactly where they're going to pop with a decent sort of lead time. But we do know that increasing thunderstorm chances will be coming our way between now and about 5 o'clock. So within the next hour and a half to 2 hours, thunderstorm chances really ramping up. That's especially going to be true with this main line that will push closer to us through that time. Now, that's in Louisville. As you work your way back to the west, parts of southern Indiana, clearly going to see those storms arrive sooner. And that brings us to Du Bois County. So let's talk about Du Bois. Obviously, you see you're outlined on our map. We always appreciate the folks over in Du Bois County. Jasper, you were hit hard yesterday. The day before, we had power lines down in Du Bois, Jasper, and Ferdinand. So we had a number of places in your community that was hit hard by storms of previous days. And now you can see moving right along 231. We pointed that out a while ago. That blast of wind would be moving closer to it, especially just off to your north. But even some strong winds have passed by Jasper. And we actually have a wind gauge in Huntingburg. So we'll work to see if we can get that report in to see what that wind actually was in Du Bois County. I'm going to put on the velocity. We'll see where the strongest winds are. Again, it's pretty much uniform across that area. I'd say on the order of 25 to 35 miles per hour.
37 mile per hour gust there, Kevin, in Jasper, Huntingburg.
37. So there you go. Pretty much a good estimate on that as it moves off to the east, pushing closer to Birdseye and Patoka Lake, if you're familiar with that area. Again, sub-severe as it moves across Du Bois County, maybe a little stronger just off to your north. So I'm going to keep the velocity on. We'll pan down and see the severe thunderstorm warning. And we're changing radar, so it changes our colors. Reds go away, greens toward the radar. So you'll notice moving right along Halbert, pushing pretty much along US 50 as this moves off to the east. It's just about to run out of the county. That would mean the decision has to be made. Will there be severe thunderstorm warnings for Lawrence County and for Orange County, perhaps, as this sort of apexes right along that county border? It's marginal as we see it. And at this point, let me just go back to see if we've had any damage reports coming in from that zone. We'll look, first of all, at the local storm reports. None there. Sometimes they're delayed. Just because it takes a while for people to report it, and then it takes a little bit longer for the information to get in. And let's look at the MPing reports as well. Nothing showing up there. And I'm just going to zoom out to see if we've had any on our home view. So we'll go back out and see. We've had a couple of trash cans down to the south, but outside of that, nothing at this point. All right, we go back to the radar view. And we'll spin this up with a number of storms out ahead of that line developing. Question is, Brian, will we see two areas? Will we see this warning expand? Will this storm continue to grow and become severe? Those are the two in our viewing area that deserve the most attention.
I agree. That's the focus seems to be certainly on how that's going to evolve. Right now, the potential on those is winds. On the northern part, they've got it up to about 55 miles per hour as you head into Lawrence County, and the potential wind as you get into Perry County with that cell moving there right over Tell City. Potential right now up to 50. But we were talking about the storm heights and the cloud tops on this. And the last check I got on this was about 50,000. See where it is now. We're in about 51,000. So maintaining roughly its height still up there. I mean, it's a rather large storm stacking there off to the east. This is going to be just a big mess of heavy rain and showers and storms rolling by the area. And that is going to cause, of course, some very slow traffic again, like we saw yesterday with the heavy rain. I'm telling you right now, this is a very, very tropical atmosphere. This is even worse than probably what Miami has to deal with much of the time. So when you deal with the rainfall moving in, it is going to be probably closer to about 3 inches, I would say, per hour may be the estimate briefly we run into as it passes on by. And that kind of a rainfall rate, you can't really drive through that. You're going to see a lot of cars pulled off to the side as it moves on through. This, again, as Kevin mentioned, this is nothing catastrophic that is happening here. This is just a severe weather episode passing through the area that we're going to be watching as these storms roll through the area that could cause some disruption, certainly in travel and in your plans. And as always the case on alert days, we want to make sure you guys have the latest. And as Ryan has pointed out several times, everyone's concerned about timing. And Kevin, the problem we're getting with this staggered look here is timing is going to vary, and we'll have to keep adjusting that. So it's not a clear-cut time that we can give you guys. We have to give it a fairly large window here.
Yeah, and again, it will change as the evolution of these storms changes from perhaps that, linear structure that we see out to the west to now even cellular structures out ahead of that. Appreciate our team here, by the way. Ryan, Brian, you've seen Carson is sitting behind the scenes working some of our cameras here. Aaron, one of our interns, just now was helping us, and Tawana was here all morning. So if you've been with us over the course of the past several days, you know that we've been here long hours working to just make sure you knew what was happening as these storms plowed through many different times of the day. Some would go through overnight. Others happen in the morning. Yesterday, they were in the afternoon again. And so here we are today looking at our SkyTrack cameras. We have the clouds that are building. You can tell it's hot. You can tell it's humid. And we have the severe thunderstorm watch until 8 o'clock. Some areas already seeing and experiencing these thunderstorms. Most of those are off to the west of I-65. Severe storm, we just have the one just outside of our viewing area. They've just trimmed it up a bit. That includes parts of Davis, Greene, and Martin counties in Indiana. That goes until 4 o'clock, so there's still another 22 minutes left on that warning. And again, still questioning, will that extend into parts of Lawrence and perhaps even northern Orange counties? It's on the edge, so it wouldn't be surprised if they issued the warning, but also wouldn't be surprised if they didn't and just put out a special weather statement like they have for the others, saying we're watching this for potential 50-mile-per-hour winds. We've had no damage with any of the storms, at least reported at this point, from this line in this particular area. Now, back out to the west, that wasn't the case. So it has lost a little bit of its punch from where it was earlier this afternoon. We still have the intense lightning. I mean, boy, you can see that going on down to the south, not far from Evansville and moving in. We showed you earlier Jeff Lyons from our sister station FIE, Channel 14 in Evansville. They were tracking those storms across Posey County, obviously with some tremendous lightning, heavy rain, and the potential for flooding. We have our own storm tracker out on the roads as well today. It'll be tracking out to the west and then following these storms back into the Louisville area as we see these storms arrive. Brian, again, we keep stressing, and Brian just mentioned it, but this isn't a massive tornado or severe thunderstorm outbreak. This is just thunderstorms that have the potential to be severe. Wind, a big issue, and obviously the lightning is a big issue. You can see that by looking. Can't always tell the wind by looking at the radar view unless you have a trained eye, but you can certainly see those lightning strikes, and that makes you say, oh, all right, maybe the ball practice needs to hold off for just a bit. Let these storms pass. That's a good idea. All right, we're talking about why this is happening. How come we've had repetitive storms like this and not washed the atmosphere out? We've had no fronts move through. It's been hot. It's been humid. We've seen southerly winds bringing us plenty of moisture from the Gulf. Look at our wind. South, 12 miles an hour, gusting to 18. But we also have mid-level winds coming in from the north. And what that means is we're looking back out to the north and west, and we're on the edge of this high pressure. Let's go over to Brian Goode. He's going to break down the fact that it is hot, it is humid. We have the high pressure out west where they've been cooking, and we're on the edge of this. And it sets up sort of what we call that train track for them to just continue to roll down the side of that high. And we get blasted with these thunderstorms that come at different times of the day. But boy, they're powerful.
They are, and as just a constant repeating setup, we got, again, a lot of humidity and heat that is in the Ohio Valley. This is a radar loop here going back really earlier this week, and I want you guys to kind of just get the general idea that's going to catch up on the motion on this, but you will get the general idea that we've got these showers and storms kind of just flying over the high pressure that's in the Central Plains. They dive in from the Midwest, and they just race eventually all the way down into the Ohio Valley. We've had big-time damage across portions of the Midwest as they race on by. Most of the ones have been moving in during the nighttime hours. We've been lucky enough to avoid significant issues with that. Still a bit annoying to have downpours kind of scattered about for the morning commute, right? But no major problems with that. It's the daytime timing of these moving on by. This one is by far the earliest we've had move through the area. Now, it looks like I see another warning coming in.
Perry
County, okay, for that one cell that's moving in. So, Kevin, I'll let you handle that. Warning detailed. Again, that's that super cell structure to it that is forming ahead of the main line there.
Yeah, and you see it here. This is the one that we've been talking about for probably about a half hour now, continuing to watch it grow. It's over Perry County. You find Tell City there, Leopold, Huffman. Again, radar indicated. So we're watching it, and that was the deal with that. We've had no confirmed reports. Hail size up to 1 inch, but the main issue would be those 60-mile-per-hour winds. That includes Cannleton, Tell City, and Troy. This storm is moving off to the east again, roughly at about 35 to 45 miles per hour, and it's continuing to expand. That's one thing you're going to notice, and it's on the southern side where you see that greatest concentration of lightning. So that's really on the Kentucky side of things when you look at that lightning right along the Ohio River. So a dangerous storm, no doubt, and one that will continue to grow as we look at the wider view. So that's the latest warning coming out. Remember, again, we were saying that could happen. We expected that to happen as these storms continue to sort of explode out ahead of the main line. It's that push of cooler air, that rain-cooled air. You sometimes feel it. If you see, you're near a thunderstorm, you can see the darkening skies. You can feel that cooler. You're like, man, that feels pretty good. It's been hot today, but now I feel this cool breeze. Well, that's the rain-cooled air rushing out from those thunderstorms that you're feeling. And in some cases, it can be many miles away. Well, because we treat the atmosphere like a fluid, and when we have that cold rush of air, that air pushes. I mean, air has weight. It's why we can feel it when we have a fan or when we fan our face with our hand or a hand fan or whatever you want to call it. But the fact is...
what are you saying over there?
I don't know. I'm just talking. We have no warnings and I'm filling time. Well, nobody, they have nothing else to do at home or they wouldn't be watching us. Isn't that the truth?
Right. That's true. Simone's won today. She won to go.
We've got gold, right, so what more do you need? We're in an Olympic race of our own here, folks. Right. I hope somebody sends us a gold medal.
Oh, that'd be nice.
The fact is,
just chocolate.
That'd be
even better.
Chocolate, that would be good. Yeah.
Anyway, it's that push of air that has weight that moves that we wind up seeing those storms form along, and that's what we're seeing on that outflow boundary back out to the west of us. All right, let's hear you ramble for a while.
Well, that's easy to do for me. The new warning.
Nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to escape for that yesterday. Feels great. All right. The new warning that's out, and it's in the southern side of Evansville. Right now, this is not into wave country, but we did have a wind gust that was measured there at 50 miles per hour as it rolled on by there into Henderson, Kentucky. We were talking about these storm heights on this. About 50,000 feet. That was one of the concerns the Weather Service had on the Perry County storm, is that when they grow like that, they get up to about 50, up to maybe 60,000 feet, which some of them certainly can do today in this kind of environment. They get to that height and then they collapse back down. When you get that collapsing back down, that's when you get the problems with not only hail, but you're also going to get very strong winds that make it down to the surface. We're watching that to see on the wind fields. We're seeing some signals here that we may have some of those downburst winds that are taking place right around the Tell City area, right along really the Ohio rivers where that could happen. We don't know if that's happening right now or not, but the Weather Service says, hey, you know what? That potential is there. Got the warning out for that, because you get a storm to that level of height, you're going to run into some kind of a problem that can happen, and we typically do. And that's certainly the wind fields, Kevin, starting to confirm that. So we may have some strong wind gusts. The problem is we may not get anything measured out of this area, and wind damage may be a bit delayed just because of the terrain as well there.
Well, you're right. We don't have anemometers everywhere to get the wind speeds, but that signal is like a microburst signal on the velocity. So let me show you what that looks like if you were watching Brian's radar. Let me first of all just zoom into that storm, and we'll focus purely on the one that we have the warning for, and that includes Perry County. And now I'm going to put the velocity on, and then I'll center it up for us, and I'll just put the velocity on the whole thing here. And let me move the radar back where we can see it. There we go. And you'll see what we're talking about. You can see, again, we have in some instances what would appear that there could be just some of that wind going down. So whereas on a tornado, we're looking for very bright colors, sort of small, gate to gate or side by side, red and green. That indicates very tight rotation. Something that often indicates a microburst would be sort of a broad area of wind that's coming out in all directions. So that would be what we would be looking at not far from the Tell City area. So we could wind up seeing strong winds from that type of storm, not necessarily a forward propagation, but more of coming down and spreading out as it makes impact with the ground. So that's one area of concern. Obviously, we have the warning out for that. Again, should be an indicator that we have to pay close attention to what is happening out across parts of Perry County. That stretches up right. And again, most of these are moving off to the east. Additional storms developing northern Washington County, starting to see some of those storms back to the south. So would not be surprised to see additional warnings. We've said this through the afternoon coming out for us. The storm moving into parts of Lawrence and Orange County no longer has the warning with it. The bulk of that storm is now pushing into those counties, and they've not reissued any type of warning for either Lawrence or Orange County. So in our viewing area, technically no counties. Perry County would be one we're watching. Ryan?
Okay, not only severe thunderstorm warnings could we embark on today, but flash flood warnings may become a problem. This is a week-long rainfall map. So I've gone back 7 full days of rainfall estimated by Doppler radar. And where you see these red splotches, we've had between 7 and 9 inches. Again, that is in isolated spots, more of a widespread 4+ inch in the last week here. But the problem is that these storms are going to go over these areas that are already saturated and potentially cause some some problems with flash flooding. We've already had major issues last night down in southeastern parts of Adair County. There was a flash flood warning that went all the way to like 1 o'clock in the morning this morning because of creeks and streams down there getting so high that roadways and bridges were being damaged, and some of that water was starting to head toward Columbia, the county seat down there in Adair County. Not good news, right? The fear today is that more of these storms could go over areas like that have already seen problems, and that soil moisture takes time to drain. So it's not going to be this instant like, okay, the flooding from yesterday is over, we reset today. No, this is additive. This takes time for of course, the aquifers and the water table here to go back down. It takes several days in some cases. So not having that good recovery time is going to lead to these problems. Another area of concern is like Northeast Jefferson County. For instance, yesterday, Prospect area picked up about 5 inches of rainfall just in a couple hours span here. So that's the rainfall map from the last week here. As I back the radar up, we can see, if you remember in your head here, where some of those heavier rainfall totals were across central Kentucky, basically from Corydon on down toward Columbia here. Look where these storms are now. They're starting to head in that direction. And you'll note we now have a new flash flood warning on the south side of Evansville, going over to Henderson and Kentucky, and really just over to Ohio County as well. So these flash flood warnings are starting to stack up here. And if you kind of follow the trend, they may very well start to overtake parts of our central Kentucky counties here, wave country, from like Hardinsburg to Brandenburg, E-Town, Bardstown, Bullitt County, folks closer to even Taylorsville, and even like Lebanon, Springfield. You guys could get in on some of this flooding because we have cells out ahead of this line of storms, then the line of storms itself, and you've got waterlogged soils down there. So not the best scenario for flooding. You folks down there in central Kentucky need to be especially on guard for that. They say turn around, don't drown. This is one of those scenarios, guys.
All right, Ryan, thanks. We're also monitoring our sister station's coverage over in Evansville. Jeff Lyons has been on this afternoon. I want to bring him up. We'll stay in the smaller box for you and kind of watch his coverage as we watch these thunderstorms moving a little closer to us. Again, our viewing area not quite impacted by these storms just yet, though they are moving closer. We'll see if any additional warnings get issued, but we are noting that the flood warnings continue to expand a little closer to us, and so do a couple of the severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, Jeff Lyons, FIE. Let's take a listen.
Counties. Michael Fecka has been doing some analysis over in the Weather Center. We're going to get to him in just a second. And of course, Arden Gregory also checking your pictures and other posts that are out there. So we have everybody here working the storm for this afternoon. We're going to throw it over to Michael now. And Michael, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, so just taking a look at the radar, we're getting a lot of thunder and lightning here at the station as well. So I took a look at the strikes that were kind of moving through at least Henderson County and into Davies counties right now. We're looking at 187, 189 lightning strikes just in that one segment of the storm here. There's even more back towards the Evansville area. So we're seeing a lot of lightning out there. And as you know, we've been saying all
So again,
along,
Michael's pointing out all of that lightning that they're watching moving into their Evansville area. It's the same story for us across Perry County. Lots of lightning. The lightning count to the north of us, and Brian, your mic's open too, but that lightning count continues to sort of dissipate a bit for us.
Yeah, that's something
definitely get away from
that we'll be watching, especially we'll keep it on the Tell City one moving on by. One thing, kind of a side note, as we're watching what's happening there in Evansville, Ryan was talking about the moisture levels. We got a couple stations in that area right in through here near the Ohio River, dew point 85 degrees at the moment. So a tremendous heavy rainfall setup. We'll watch at Grayson County. You guys have always been picking up on the heavy rain scenario for the past week. You seem to be a target for that. So we'll be watching for some very heavy rain moving at Breckenridge and Grayson as this moves on by. How this evolves though along I-64 into Louisville, I know everyone's asking how will that play out. We don't know that just yet. I don't want to get too specific on it because you're seeing a bit of a merging setup of some of those cells because that line is trying to catch up with it. So a bit of a merging setup, big mess is the best way to explain this as it moves on by. So this is going to be approaching the Louisville area. Roughly still looking at about an hour that should be moving into the metro there with very heavy rain and some lightning. And potential is there for some strong wind gusts. We've seen several reports of these 37 to about 50 mile per hour wind gusts that have been measured out of this line so far. That is not severe. That is just below the limits. But having said that, something we've seen a lot this week is we're getting wind damage and trees down even in areas that are not getting too severe limits on those wind gusts. And that is really where I think we're going to have a problem with additional tree damage that may fall here, even though we're not getting to severe limits. That seems to be the trend. That the soils are just so saturated.
We should also point out that across the area, we have, again, heard from the Storm Prediction Center saying, hey, while we have lost some of this bow and the wind on that, as this storm moves into a very unstable air mass, it could re-intensify across the area, and the isolated cells out ahead of it are to be concerned with. So again, the two things we've been talking about, first of all, the atmospheric conditions we have favorable for the development of these storms to intensify once again as it moves in addition to the forward cells out ahead of the main line. So the again, just for folks that may be tuning in, those were our colleagues Michael and Jeff from Evansville that you were listening to. We just sort of dipped into their coverage while they're tracking the storms moving through Evansville. I was really hoping to see maybe some from their storm tracker or some of their live reports or live video from there just to see what it was actually like as it's moving in. But of course, they're in their studio with coverage and we didn't see that there. You can imagine what it's like. Very heavy rain. Again, powerful winds in pockets. Not everybody. This isn't like, hear us sometimes talk about a derecho moving in. That is not what this is. This is a MCS. And this is simply moving in a mesoscale convective complex. And this area of storms will be pushing forward. In pockets within this, there are wind gust that would be severe limits. That's why we have the severe thunderstorm potential out ahead of that line, now catching up to it. So a merger is taking place there. You'll notice that core of lightning situated right along the Ohio River. All right, let's go over to Brian.
Okay, you mentioned that Storm Prediction Center update where they are focused right onto the western side here of the Louisville area, including really the city of Louisville. That's the zone right here that they're talking about where, again, there could be some of that re-intensification. Our current heat index is 105 here in the city of Louisville. We have a lot of moisture here. Now, is that going to lead to a big time event? We're not expecting that, but certainly getting to the level where we can get some trees that get knocked down, some power outages. It's a very similar setup that we've had every day this week, where we've had some heavy rain, some flash flooding, and some tree damage. Flooding reports have actually been higher, though, than the tree damage reports, which has been interesting, and we'll see what happens. But the tree damage reports always get delayed and coming in. This morning, we had a whole list that just suddenly hit of wind damage reports that were from last night. So it took nearly a 12-hour window to get some of those reports in. That's a really big delay. So that's the reason why it's a bit of a challenge for us as far as getting our data in. So if you have any type of element like that, where it's a tree limb down, any flash flooding, anything like that that moves into your area, let us know. We've got our chat open on the social media side. Ryan is sitting here watching it, as well as Carson. So if you have any questions or if you have any comments or any reports, we are there to listen for you guys, and we can relay that on to Weather Service. And what's really a big benefit is it helps out your neighbor in advance of the storm to let them know what that potential will be. So again, this is not a huge event, but it still can cause some problems for us. And I do think that flash flooding is going to be certainly on the list, as well as some isolated cases of tree damage. I'm not concerned right now, Kevin, about any kind of tornado setup. We are not seeing anything like that at all anywhere along this line.
Yeah, and from the Weather Prediction Center, they've just now issued a discussion across the area as well, talking just about that, the potential for flooding rains coming across the area. All right, we've got our SkyTrack cameras. I want to take on a little, so we've got 10 of these, so let's just roll through them. This is Starlight, Indiana, clearly different view from what you saw the last time. You'll notice that the rain is getting closer. In fact, in Corydon, it is raining. We have a little downpour that's just now developed right across Corydon. This is at the old State House, and you can see the raindrops falling there. That's Corydon, Indiana. Additional SkyTrack cameras will take us across the area down to Bardstown. Partly sunny skies there. Hot and humid. That heat index above 100 to 105 many areas. So that's good old Nelson County down there. Additional SkyTrack cameras take us to E-Town, a little further south. Partly sunny skies there, but clouds building in. We're going to see the showers showers and thunderstorms approach Elizabethtown within the next couple of hours. Will they be severe? Question mark. Not sure. They certainly have the potential to as these storms move closer to our area, because we're primed for that setup where we would have the intensification availability thanks to the energy in the atmosphere. You can see downtown. We also have partly sunny to mostly cloudy skies. No rain here right at the moment, but that could change within just a bit. The severe thunderstorm watch in place, the radar view showing the thunderstorms back out to the west of us. We continue severe thunderstorm warnings just off to the south of Evansville. Those would get closer to parts of Breckenridge, Grayson, Meade, eventually into Crawford County. The one to our north has weakened. The lightning count has diminished, but there are pockets, and you can note that by just looking at the lightning themselves on where we have the strongest of those
cluster
storms.
right there, Kevin. They're up to 55,000 now on the height on that. That has certainly gone up for that storm right over Tell City. So we'll be watching that for a very heavy rain event. It's again right there in Tell City as you head into Hancock County, into Perry County, right along the Ohio River. But so far, we haven't had any reports of anything on the ground. Truth to that, that's what we're still waiting on.
All right. And the Weather Service not issuing a warning, but issuing a statement saying they are continuing to watch northwestern parts of Harrison County, Crawford County, Orange County, and western Washington counties. So they're watching these storms as they kind of move closer and these other storms develop near that area. So winds up to 50 miles per hour. That's sub-severe. So that's the reason no warnings. But they're saying, all right, we could see strong winds, 45 to 50 miles per hour, possible with any of these storms that are developing. You just saw the storm tracker. It's out on the roads. It's headed westbound. We'll sort of intercept a few of these downpours that are going on, perhaps even the severe thunderstorm warnings back out closer to Crawford County. So, again, we got a lot of eyes on the sky and a lot of eyes right here in the studio on the storms that are going on across southwest Indiana and western Kentucky. Starting to see more and more of those pop closer to the area. And with that, it's 4 o'clock. So we're going to continue with our weather coverage here. At 5 o'clock, we will have some top news stories for you. And then again at 6 o'clock, our full newscast on WAVE and NBC. We do that again at 7 and at 11. So while the Olympics are on, folks that are looking for weather information, look no further than the WAVE storm tracking team. We're assembled here just to give you, sort of walk you through what's happening. We've talked about this all week. It's sort of been a long time since we've had a pattern that's set up like this, where we would have 5 days in a row, or at least the potential of, we're not there yet, but today is day 4, where we've had severe weather, and in some cases, multiple times within one day. So we've been on a lot this week, especially on our streaming channels. If you've never found our streaming channel, thank you for finding it today. And when we're not on the air, we still have 24/7 weather information. It's Louisville's only live weather stream, and we're proud of that. It's been going on for how long? A year and a half?
2 years as of
2 years.
June 5th or something like that.
Seems like yesterday, doesn't it, Brian?
Right, exactly. It's a lot of coverage we've done on that. Hey, Kevin, I just want to update. This is the new outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. It's a slight risk, a level 2 out of 5, basically, and it's right there along where that MCS has been tracking across the area. And again, one of the bigger issues we've got is just the amount of moisture that is in the air as these storms move on by. That's what's going to help power them up. We got that dew point of 81 in Corydon, Louisville at 73, Fort Knox. That's impressive at 78 degrees for a dew point there. Even Bardstown at 78, Tell City 82. Flooding reports are coming in Evansville, and they got measured winds not far from Evansville in Davis County of 60 miles per hour, and that is at severe limits. So they've had some trees that have been knocked down around Henderson, Kentucky, as well as the storms move on by. So that southern cluster, get the radar back on, that southern cluster is the one that seems to be causing the biggest problem. And that does stretch all the way up to about Tell City. That's the one that, as this arcs on by, this is where we should see a bit more of that enhancement. We could get additional warnings out of that. It's possible. We're waiting to see if we get any word on that. But so far, we're not getting a lot of reports. In this particular zone, I will say this is an area that we probably get the least amount of reports on as these storms move on by. So it does take a bit of time on that. So we're going to be monitoring that carefully coming on by. But in Louisville, again, still looking at it within the hour. we should get some storms here, Kevin.
All right. Appreciate that. We are seeing some rain not far from Louisville. In fact, if you're headed out the interstate, as you work your way out 64, you get into parts of Harrison County. Our storm tracker is out and about, and we can show you some of the rain falling there. You can see it on the windshield. Nothing severe, but rain falling. And again, that's likely that little cell right there, just north of Court, and that was the one we saw from our SkyTrack camera. Going to move into that wall of water, though. Some heavy rain with this. Good news is it's moving, and it's moving at a pretty good clip. So the odds of seeing flooding anywhere from the Ohio River north would be less than what we're going to see across parts of Kentucky. Why is that? Well, because it sort of flattens out a bit, and that's what we would call training storms. And you'll notice it sort of swings back that way. So it's this zone that we would have to watch for the potential for flooding as it moves into parts of Meade County, Breckinridge County. Could clip parts of Perry County, perhaps southern parts of Crawford and Harrison counties. But that's the area of heavy rain that could cause some flooding if we were looking at the current setup on what we have on the radar. Again, gust in Louisville only to 21 miles an hour. You can see that the warning continues for parts of Perry County, has not been extended into Crawford County, and the warning that was in place just off to our west of Lawrence and Orange has not extended across those counties, though the showers and thunderstorms will continue there. Again, just noting that we are in a primed environment to see some of this storm development. Doesn't mean they're going to just, boom, take off and explode and all become severe. It doesn't work like that. But the threat would be we're in these pockets. And again, I keep saying you can tell where those pockets are based on the clusters of lightning. That's where we would have the potential for some not only heavy rain, but even some small hail. Now, let's see if we have any hail. It's very warm today, so a lot of hail on a day like today melts before it can even make it to the ground. But let's go. I'll just see if we've had any reports of hail. And we're looking at the MPing reports. None, at least on MPing. But when we look at our hail scope, let me just go back to our radar here, and then I'll put on the hail scope to see if the radar sees any hail reports. And we can look at that by looking at the hail scope here. And I would suspect that we have the opportunity that the radar could possibly see some, but nope, even that's melted. So the good news is there's a little bit with that storm. Can you see that blue color? So that's nickel to quarter size, right with that storm on the southern tip of Perry County. That would be the really only one that we have that would even have the potential for hail. And the odds of that happening are very low because of how hot it is. So even if you have hail, as it makes its way through the atmosphere, as it gets into those warmer layers, shoop, it melts very fast. So that's what we're checking out in terms of severe potential. So do we have hail? No, not really. Do we have tornadoes? No, not really. Do we have severe storms in terms of wind? That is a possibility, and that's going to occur in a couple of places, especially with this cluster of storms now hugging the Ohio River and pushing off to the east. They're moving roughly at about 40 miles an hour. Brian?
All right, Kevin, the one cell that I've been monitoring here, especially on the wind fields, is the one that's located right along the Ohio River, moving around Evansville, or excuse me, to Owensboro. That is the one that we're watching. In fact, they just issued a special weather statement, kind of a heads up on that general zone here ahead of the main line. No official warning yet from the Weather Service on that. That's usually, could be a good and a bad sign. Sometimes they'll issue a statement in advance of trying to issue a warning, and sometimes it's just an idea of kind of a heads up on it. But this is the cluster right here near Owensboro that did produce that 60-mile-per-hour wind gust that is passing right over Owensboro at the moment, and that's the one we're going to be tracking carefully. I know I got scribbles. I got scribbles everywhere. As this line moves on by to the east, that's where the strongest the wind feels. Let me switch over to the Louisville radar at Fort Knox, and it changes the green, indicating it's heading toward us. So you can see, again, that pocket. And we'll see how that tracks as it moves off to the east. It's going to be tracking, it looks like, right over Hancock County again. Will get hit. And then Kevin noted the wind fields on the northern side is not as impressive. And even the one in Tell City, it looks like it has collapsed. I'll try to get some of the wind field or the heights on that here in a second. But it looks like it has collapsed there. But we'll see if that can develop into another thunderstorm or not, or at least try to produce another uptick, if you will, as you head toward areas, say, around Meade County, up along the Ohio River. So it's a very staggered setup at the moment as we're watching this cluster kind of move off to the east. But Weather Service, Storm Prediction Center, just about every meteorologist right now, we're all looking at the same thing. And we're all basically saying the same thing, is that the environment is still prime here to get a bit of an uptick where you can get a few more wind gusts to get up there 50 to 60 miles per hour. And certainly flash flooding, as Kevin mentioned, is going to be a big issue. We got dew points into the lower 80s in spots, especially in that section. That is just a tremendous amount of water that has to be run out. And even though you may not get 3-4 inches at one time there, the rate is going to be so intense. It just really impacts travel in a big way. And a lot of country roads here, of course. So windy roads. If you have any travel plans in this area, this is not going to be a fun spot as you be traveling in. In fact, the flood advisory is not coming out for part of that area too. Just not coming out from Paducah office there, Kevin.
All right. Appreciate that. Once again, for folks just now jumping into the stream, we're at about 10 minutes after 4 o'clock. We've been tracking these storms for the last hour. They're not severe in our viewing area. Perry County is the closest severe storm, and that's just on a fringe county of ours. We've been watching it. That storm up to 50 to 56,000 feet tall in the atmosphere. So some potential with that storm to see some strong winds and obviously heavy rain and lightning that we can see on the radar view. These storms out ahead of it are trying to develop, some having a harder time than others. Others are getting caught by this line that's moving closer to us. Many areas are going to see a blast of gusty winds, maybe 30 to as high as 40 miles an hour on a wind gust. Many areas should see somewhere like that. Some will see even higher wind gust. Those would be the severe thunderstorm warnings that we have, if we have any. And all of the area that's impacted will see a brief period of heavy rain and the lightning. So you've got to let this move in. You can see because of the impending rain that's moving our way with the street rods going on, they've got a lot of those cars covered up. They put the plastic on them there. They say, hey, we don't want to have to get out the chamois again. So let's let this rain come by. We'll cover the cars up. You're going to see a lot of those folks do just that as the rain moves closer to Louisville. Now, the question is, will we wind up with severe weather as these storms approach? That's still a big question mark. Brian was just mentioning, and we've talked about it this afternoon, that across this area, we still have the ability to see the storms increase, both in intensity and in rainfall. So a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. We will wind up seeing some heavy rain push through as these storms approach. They're still, outside of these isolated storms ahead of it, probably another hour away from us, maybe an hour 20. So somewhere within that time frame. So we're still watching these storms move in. We've got eyes on it from our SkyTrack cameras. We've got one in Corydon looking to the west. We've got another one up at Huber's Orchard and Winery, several in the downtown area, one in E-Town. So all eyes to the west as these storms make their approach. Ryan?
Yeah, and that's a cautionary tale I wanted to tell here about those storms moving into Louisville in about, an hour's time here during the 5 o'clock hour when the evening rush is going to be in full swing here. You're already seeing some slowdowns on area roads without the rain. So imagine, turn the clock forward an hour when it's raining here in the city and we've got these storms moving through. Could be kind of a mess, all right, kind of like it was yesterday. Already seeing just a 19 mile per hour speed southbound Snyder there before you get to 64, 7 miles per hour as you're on the Snyder closer to I-65.
Snyder's closed, by the way, there.
Yeah, you see the purple that literally just popped up that Brian talked about. So it looks like the Snyder, and that's going to be westbound here in southern Jefferson County. Past I-65 is now closed, likely due to an incident down that way. And again, it's not even raining yet. Let's zoom this out just so you can see the rest of our wave country counties here, all 34 with the major interstates and parkways plotted on here. And it's not as bad outside the city. But again, the weather, or the rain, I should say, is now moving in from the west. And we've already had some reports from you folks on social media like Facebook and YouTube of thunder and lightning happening already in Hardinsburg. And the radar bears that out, guys. So it's going to get louder and darker as we go throughout the next hour or so here in the city.
All right, we've got several trees down over in Henderson, looking at 60 mile per hour winds that we had not far from Owensboro. And again, just to get your bearings, here's Evansville. You work your way over to Tell City. Owensboro sits in there. You'll notice that that's where we've had some of that stronger wind push through in terms of what's been measured. So when we're looking at that on the radar, as we zoom in, that has been the strongest storm nearby our counties that we've had to deal with. Again, you can see Grandview, Tell City, Owensboro sits just off the map here, but that's where we had that strong wind gust, likely seeing some gusty winds here, but sub-severe in terms of as it continues to sink a little bit off to the east and to the south. So we're seeing a few more storms develop into parts of Breckinridge County, but no severe thunderstorm warnings with those at this point. Our wind gust in Louisville at 21 miles an hour. That is a wind from the south, pumping in plenty of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. It is the reason we have a lot of humidity around the area. Again,
and we've got
open.
some wind gusts in Paoli of 33 miles per hour as that northern end moves through. That's from a personal weather station there, by the way.
All right, so 33 mile per hour, again, sub-severe, below that 57, 58 mile per hour mark that we look for. Again, weakening on the northern edge of this, but still seeing pockets of heavy rain, lightning, and wind as this moves generally across extreme southern Indiana near the Ohio River and moving across parts of northern Kentucky. Our plan will be, if the warnings sort of no longer drift into our area, we'll make sure that doesn't happen. We'll get a quick update with news. Otherwise, we're going to stay with weather. We know a lot of folks are curious what's happening, especially as these storms get closer to us. That always sort of shakes people's mind. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, the sky looks like it's dark. I better turn the television on. Let's see what the wave storm tracking team's saying. So we want to make sure we're here for those folks when they turn on or tune in, however you want to look at that, regardless if that's on television when we're there or on our social streams, which we're on more often than not because of the amount of availability that we have. It's easy for us to do. We can pop into the stream, whether that's on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. We got them all. And we're also on our apps. If you don't have the Wave Weather app, if you're not watching on the Wave Weather app, you should download it. It's easy to watch all of our streams there 24/7. We're always there. All right, Brian.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. And you're right. We're monitoring that. A lot of you are watching. We've got, we can see your comments that are, they're flying up here on the site. So we appreciate you guys chiming in, and also appreciate you guys kind of helping each other out too and answering questions, which is really, really nice. Ryan Hoke is monitoring that as well. Ryan, what are you hearing right now from people? What's the most common question besides timing, of course?
Right. Timing is going to be the number one. A lot of folks are asking about, like, is it going to be bad at their place, obviously. But we've also had a lot of questions about tornadoes. Is this a tornado setup? And no, it's not a tornado setup today. Thankfully, this is kind of the wind and flooding that we've kind of seen all week. So if you liked it earlier this week, you're going to like it today. It's the kind of similar situation here with these storms that are moving in. So
well, I'm looking at the camera right above your head, and this is
hello, shelf cloud.
Yeah, right over into Corda, and that's that small little cell that was tracking through the portions there of Harrison County with the storm tracker that was tracking into that area.
We can see it taking full there in Corda. And if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, that's where we've got the downdraft. On the left side, that's the updraft where the warm air is kind of going into the storm right there. So you can kind of take it apart just by one camera view there. And of course, your eyes are the best way to see these storms. We've got this radar and satellite technology and all these reports, but eyes on the ground are going to be the best way to see this and get your reports to us, of course.
All right, and are you hearing anything on that on reports, by the way?
Just the kind of the darkening skies, thunder and lightning, a lot of those types of comments from folks, but we haven't had anything like yesterday at this time when we were getting like power outages and folks seeing flooding in their backyards. It's a lot more intense yesterday just because it's happened earlier, but this is happening a little later in the day today, so we're not really getting those comments just yet. Of course, most folks are here in Louisville, but we've got folks from almost all of our 34 counties watching us here. And by the way, on social media, we're nearly 1,200 folks watching and countless more on our live stream, on our website, and on the Wave Weather app, Wave Weather Now, that we're talking about.
Kevin's here with us as well. And Kevin, one of the things that we're getting is that a lot of folks they get nervous, especially when you see a sky like this. Well, it gets serious. So we're trying to make sure everyone's understanding the situation and calm fears down.
I think there's really two prongs to this. First of all, they see it and they're like, oh, man, something must be happening. And then they see us on nonstop. And usually we're on nonstop when there's a tornado. Right.
That's what we do.
We've trained the audience that if we're on, there must be something really bad happening. And I think today's sort of an exception. That's not necessarily the case today. We're on because of a number of reasons. We have the Olympics on. We're watching these storms. It's been a week of severe weather. We've got school kids going back and people trying to get stuff done in preparation for that. So this is not a massive severe weather outbreak. In fact, we haven't even had a warning, not one single warning in our viewing area today.
Yeah, so far.
Perry would be the exception on our fringe area.
Yeah.
But in our core counties here, it's been quiet so far. We're still waiting for these storms to arrive.
Yeah, and the thing is, they will push in, and there's still the potential for them to be severe. The main issue is going to be pockets of wind. Is everybody going to get wind damage today? Absolutely not. Could there be a handful of places that see some wind damage and a few isolated power outages? That's going to be possible.
Absolutely. And very heavy rain. And again, it's just timing. This is 4:16 in the afternoon. We got rush hour. Clark County, I think, is the one that went back today. So I know a lot of the kids like all the buses out there now. So far in Clark County, we've got a small couple of little downpours into the western side, very close to Starlight, Indiana. We got a couple there, but it certainly may slow down traffic, especially for the Louisville area. I know we went through this yesterday. We're not expecting. We don't see the rates to that level that we had yesterday, because yesterday it was more east-west along I-64 and got stuck over us,
which was no
for a while. Right. This is a little more progressive, although it's only moving at 20 miles per hour. So that still will lead to at least some localized, brief flooding on roadways. Hydroplaning is such a big issue right now. And as Ryan was just showing us, we've already got, for some reason, I don't know what today is happening, but several crashes going on that are closing down some parts of our interstate. So it's already kind of a mess out there.
Caused by clear weather, as we say around
you
here.
add the rain
Due to clear weather, we're having crashes.
Rain
Back to school. Oh, my God.
You know, you've got New Albany, Floyd County back to school. Silver Creek is back to school. You were just talking about Clark County here. It's so interesting how the southern Indiana districts go back so much earlier in some cases here. So a lot of folks on the Kentucky side of the river are like, wait, school is back already? Why are you talking about this? It's because of our friends across the river.
Yeah, we're going to scan the velocities here, but I know we have some images we can show you. The storm tracker's out. We've got folks that you can see that darkening sky. That is moving into that edge of that heavy precipitation. And Brian, you can probably plot its location on the map there.
They have not turned the laptop on, and I've asked them to do that. So we'll see if we can get that laptop on.
And it's probably already into the main line.
I'm moving close to,
I think he's over here now.
Exactly.
Into that section of it, which is, again, look how low the clouds are. And that's where it gets really ominous, because they are low because the moisture content is so high. A lot of this is what we call scud clouds. The key on that is that we watch them to see if they ever rotate. If they rotate, well, then we know we got a tornado situation. Well, nothing is really rotating here. This is all moving in the same line together, and that is the reason why this is mainly a straight line scenario.
But not to the trained eye. You'd look at that and be like, oh, my goodness, look at that. It looks like that could be a funnel. No, that's not a funnel.
Weather Service did note they have data that comes in a lot, too, from the plains land. They have noticed there is a bit of a warm layer that obviously it's hot, and that is, and of course, the wind field's not as intense along 65 and east as our west. We just have a lot of fuel as far as heat and moisture, but we are missing some ingredients on that. That's the reason why we don't have widespread warnings right now along this line, and we'll just have to wait and see how this evolves in the next hours.
And part of that evolution will be seeing if we can erode that warm layer, and that can happen by these thunderstorms that are out to our west, sending out those cooler outflows.
Exactly. The more they climb in height and begin to collapse and produce a bit of that cold air, a little bit of a mini cold front, if you will, that races to the east. If you look at the radar, let me show you that again. You can almost see that. That is a bit of the difference that we're looking at with the main line located right over Crawford County. And then you've got a little bit of the uptick, the updrafts in advance of it that are going up.
Max 2.
Yeah, it's right over there behind me. That's where some of those cells are. They're located. There we go. Thank you. Into Harrison County, in Borden, Indiana. Again, Clark County. We talked about that. That's where some of these power back up. This is a very complex scenario. They've been that way all week, mainly because a lot of the data we've been looking at as far as futurecast, and a lot of you noted that. You've been paying attention. So a lot of you are like trained meteorologists now, but you've noted that the data has been struggling on how these things will evolve. So we're taking...
the models have been just garbage this week.
So we've been just literally taking this hour by hour the past 4 days, which is exhausting to do. Normally it's crazy just for one round of storms, but 4 rounds is pretty wild. But we have to literally take it hour by hour. We know we got fuel, we've got heat, but the wind field is not as intense here in the area, and we have that warm layer a lot. Those are two things, and they're crucial items in a severe list that we're monitoring. We'll see how that affects the line as it moves into the city there. So Kevin is right. We're not here because of a big time damage and wind threat. This is something that we would do anyway. And really in the evening hours, if we had an alert day out, we would just make sure that we are there for you guys. And that's the thing. We want to be there for you. And especially when we have active weather and when we're able to. And this is an unusual setup this week with the Olympics. So
yeah, exactly.
It gives us an opportunity to help you guys out. Look how dark that image is over there.
The storm tracker is rolling right into that. I don't. Can we talk to the folks on board the storm tracker? I don't even know who's in it. All right, they're going to try to get us hooked up. I'm just curious. I mean, it's blinding rain. And that's the thing. When we talk about the amount of water in the atmosphere, I mean, it's tropical-like. It's just intense, heavy rainfall rates, as if you looked at it over an hour's time, you'd pick up a couple inches of rain.
Well, you're probably going to notice here in a minute, you may run into like semis that got their hazard lights on. People may have to pull over. He's not quite all the way into the core yet, but he's getting closer. You get your giant raindrops. I mean, it's just absolutely pouring down in that area at the moment into portions of Crawford County, English, Indiana. You guys are in that zone as well, seeing some of that heavier rain. That's about where the storm tracker is getting into now, is into Crawford County on I-64. This is I-64 heading westbound, and you see visibility not looking great right in advance there of the storm tracker. This is not a severe storm at the moment, but it does have the potential to produce some strong wind. You see people there pulled off to the side of the road with their hazard lights on. They're like, nope, I am not dealing with this. And that's really the best thing you can do. There's another vehicle pulled off the side. So just about every car, look at that. Every car just about pulled off to the side.
Meanwhile, the storm tracker is going right into the storm.
Zooming on by. But you really can't drive very well in this environment. Look how awful that is. Drive through. And again, this is not a severe thunderstorm, this particular one, but
it's that heavy rain.
It still causes impacts, and it can be dangerous, and that's the reason why we should make sure everyone's all right.
Well, we've got Mark Stevens on board. We'll check in with him when we can. Of course, when it's safe to do so. He's not driving, but he's in the passenger seat, probably holding on pretty tight. But we'll track this back into Louisville. So we wanted to sort of take you into the storm, show you what that looks like. You can see that, and as Brian's pointed out, I mean, it is a super slow go out 64 as you work your way careful. Right through. Well, this would be Harrison County moving into Crawford County.
Yeah, very close to English, I believe, is where he's getting. It's getting worse and worse.
Yeah. The Harrison Crawford State Forest is nearby there. So
yeah, he's slowing down, but you got to do. I mean, you could probably go 25 to 30 miles per hour in that kind of a range. It becomes a bit of a challenge. And again, the hazard lights are the best thing you can do because you can't tell if someone is really, really slow. You want to come up on them too quick there. How's your plane? You got to watch for that. Be careful if that evolves. And again, this is what is really that wall
moving in
right into the city of Louisville here.
This is what it will look like here at rush hour.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, that's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. And darkening skies already starting to happen, of course, part of the area. Perry County, we got wind damage now that took place in Perry County, some tree damage in Dodd that took place from those storms earlier on. Not surprising. This is going to be on Deer Creek Road near Cannleton. We're close to the river there. So, again, that's not surprising given that downburst signature we have. We probably did have some trees that were going to get knocked down. And we may see that signature again.
Okay, well,
Kevin, you want to?
Yeah, let's just bring him in. We're watching the feed. Mark Stevens is on board the storm tracker. So, Mark, we've seen the cars pulled over. It looks like water ponding to the side of the road. I can hear it hitting the windshield. Obviously, it's not severe. So I'm curious, A, have you seen any wind or felt that there was wind with this, or is it just the heavy rain?
No, we actually did feel right as we were coming into this line of storms, you could feel the car shake. There was a ton of wind. The wind seems to have, it's not as impactful now. There is a lot of water. I mean, you were talking about ponding. I don't know if I can see it with the camera on the roof, but where the semi is parked, looking off to the right, I mean, there is just what looks like a creek alongside the interstate here with all the water coming down from above that hill where it's pouring off of the overpass. Now it's cleared up a little bit, but a lot of water coming down. You guys saw it earlier. I moved the camera so you could see there were a ton of people that had decided they were going to pull off to the side and just keep their hazards on. I'm seeing less of that now. In fact, we're getting passed by somebody with their hazards on. They seem comfortable driving. But right now it's just a lot of rain. How's the wind feel, Michael, to you? Heavy wind, according to my driver, Michael. But that's about it, wind and rain.
Okay, Mark, if
in fact, we're still getting passed.
If you guys, you and Michael, if you get an opportunity to exit and head back toward the city of Louisville, because we got a feeling we're going to be getting some issues like this in the city. So if you guys don't mind, we're able to safely exit and get back around. We appreciate it.
They want us to turn around.
You're still hot. Your mic's on there, but whenever you get a chance,
I'm sorry.
when it's safe, just swing back and follow that storm back into the city, because we'd like to be able to show that. We've got a lot of street rods that are out in the city, especially at the fairgrounds and the expo center, and it appears you've passed the worst of it there, and then as it starts to make its way in, we have additional storms popping out ahead of that.
Yeah,
so let's talk about those.
These are getting. Let's get back to the radar because we want to show that this line is starting to perk back up. New development, and this is going to be right along the I-65 corridor. This is going to change so many times now for Louisville. Looks like now Louisville is going to be within the next 15 minutes. We're going to get development into the I-65 corridor. So you see the cells, see the lightning count going up. That's a sign. These are getting taller into eastern areas of Washington County, Indiana, Scott County, through Borden, Indiana, Western Clark, all the way into the Knobs, and then now into PRP. You can see downpours that are beginning to pop right along there, not far from the casino area, just south of it, actually, heading to the north and east, right into the city here. So we're going to get a quick little downpour. We'll be able to track down the cameras here locally very, very soon. Now, Mark, he was live again right in that area into near English, Indiana on 64. He's going to head back into the city because notice, Kevin, a bit of an issue here. We're getting a little more of a line of delineation showing up near Breckenridge and Meade, indicating maybe a bit of a stronger push of wind may develop there. So that's something I'll be watching too.
Yeah, that's an area we'll have to watch. You can see the temperature much cooler where we have the storm tracker pushing through, as you pointed out, not far from English. They'll make their loop around and get back on the front side of that storm as it makes its way back in. And that's one area we'll have to watch, but we have additional storms firing. You see how this is working, right? We get a cluster of storms, throws out an outflow, storms form along that. Eventually that gets big enough, it throws out an outflow, storms form along that. So it's a constant progression of these storms through the area. Sometimes you get ran over by more than one round of storms, and that's where you get the really heavy rainfall rates, because you get one round moves through and then boom, right behind it, a whole nother one comes in on its heels. So again, you have to sort of subtract the forward speed of the car there. I don't think the winds themselves are at 78 miles an hour, but we have some gusty winds along with our car that's probably going about 45 to 55 miles per hour. So gives you an idea of what to expect. Again, right on 64. So that's the view of the storm tracker as it's making its way through the area. Again, I'll reiterate, there are no warnings. We've had no severe thunderstorm warnings today for our viewing area, exception Perry County, sitting on one of our fringe counties. We still have this line of thunderstorms trying to develop near the metro, so let's zoom into that. For folks that may be in southern Indiana, heading out to still at the bus stop maybe. You can see parts of Salem, Indiana. You're in a little bit of a clear, but we've got storms popping near New Liberty, Daisy Hill, Borden, moving over towards Scottsville. We should be able to get a decent shot of these on our SkyTrack cameras as they approach the area. So we'll work on.
Yeah, Ryan Adams, by the way, is at Huber's right now on YouTube, and he says it is pouring down there. So I'm getting ready to take this camera live here on our SkyTrack. So
let's pop up our SkyTrack.
Yeah, SkyTrack should be up if we can take that full, guys, from the control room there.
And there it is.
There we go. Yeah, there you go.
And we can zoom that camera around. So we're looking from that viewpoint just out to the west. But that is some heavy rain. And that's going to be the theme of the day. I mean, we've had some wind, and the wind threat is still there, and the potential is there. But if you're not seeing the wind, you're certainly going to see some of that heavy rain. And there was the distillery, there's the barn, the house, the event center there. You can see there's not a lot of wind. Look at the flag. It's just completely draped down. But the heavy rain is falling. The trees still, but if we tilt the camera down, you'll see on that pavement in the parking lot a tremendous amount of water rushing off from the very heavy rain that's now falling out of that one thunderstorm.
I mean, nice lightning is about to show up on here too. It's about a 3-second delay, so watch for that here as I tilt the camera down. Boom, there it was. And you can see what the parking lot looks like with some of the ponding there.
All right. Again, it's a heavy rainmaker, southern Indiana. We also have a number of storms that are trying to develop out ahead. So this will eventually form a line. So this will be our first chance for rain here in Louisville, already seeing some of those downpours. Let me just zoom into that, and then I'll go over to Brian. He's tracking some of the stronger winds, but I want to track the first push of rain. We also have a camera in New Albany, and we've got a heavy downpour there. So I can show you what that looks like from our vantage point in New Albany as well. So we'll work on switching our camera there. Winds in Louisville still 21 miles an hour. New Albany seeing some of that heavy rain. Let's put the SkyTrack up, and then we'll swap the camera. And there is New Albany seeing that rain push in. You'll notice, you can see that it's just beginning to rain there, but some heavy rain will be pushing through right along the banks of the Ohio River. So some heavy rain falling just on the sunny side over in New Albany. That's the Sherman-Minton Bridge, of course, still being worked on. Looking good. You can see traffic moving in both directions on that. Always a good sign when that's happening.
It's going to spin around. You'll see the downdraft here. It's quite impressive, Kevin. You'll see this looks like a sheet of rain on the right side of your screen. Kaboom. Look at that.
Nice. So that is the heaviest of the rain moving in. So that really should start to really just take over the camera as it moves closer. That green pointed building, that's the YMCA downtown New Albany. And there you see the rest of downtown. We're looking up Pearl Street there, and then you can swing around. You've got Market and Main in the forward side of those buildings. But some very heavy rain moving into parts of New Albany. These are storms out ahead of that main line. And then as you look back to the east, closer to downtown Louisville, and you see the train bridges in the distance there, we're under a partly sunny sky. More lightning, so these storms continue to develop with plenty of lightning across the area. Back to the radar view we go, and with that, you're going to notice heavy rain pushing in. Brian, I'm watching the rain here, but if I zoom out, well, first of all, let me just zoom down because I wanted to point out we have additional downpours developing in Jefferson County, too. I don't want to leave the folks out in Shawnee. You can see this little shower. Obviously, the bigger one's near New Albany. That's going to expand. So Portland, Shawnee, heavy downpour coming your way. We see downpours from Shively, Riverside Gardens, Locust Point, Greenwood, not far from Boat Ramp, down toward Rubbertown there. So a nice thunderstorm developing. Not a lot of lightning with this cluster of storms, but it's just now developing. And you can see additional ones over near Auburndale, pushing not far from Iroquois Park. And then a few more as you work your way just south of the Gene Snyder. And that's going to be over the Jefferson Memorial Forest. So that's Jefferson County. I wanted to get that in. But, Brian, I know you're looking at some of the wind speeds in addition to the heavy rain that I've just pointed out in the metro.
Well, speaking of Louisville, by the way, real quick, we still got a heat index of 101. It is 93. So we're still like a heat bubble at the moment as these storms are beginning to move in. They've just issued a flood advisory now for Breckenridge and Perry County and Hancock County. Again, it's a flood advisory, not a flood warning. Let me try to get that on here.
Yeah, while you're doing that, be good. Brandon Smith on X here, watching our live stream on X, says insane lightning just north of Hardinsburg, and the power is flickering frequently. Again, that's Hardinsburg and Breckenridge County. Well, or Brandon seeing that.
Okay, and that is it. The wind field is really ticked up quite a bit. I've been watching that in Breckenridge, and this is what you're looking at, by the way. Is wind fields, red wind blowing away from the radar beam that's located right here at Fort Knox, and green blowing toward. But there's the flood advisory, so I got a lot of things that are flashing here. So I'm kind of make sure you guys understand what you're
Susan's
seeing.
at a gas station in Hardinsburg, and she says her truck is literally rocking because of this wind.
Yeah, and here's the thing. That wind field stretches all the way up. Mark Stevens, who's in our storm tracker, was traveling on 64, and he said everything rocked when he went by. Well, there's that strong push of wind. We see it. Boy, it's getting up there, and it's tracking right to the east.
Can you put the storm tracker on your map there, Brian? I can't control that from the key.
Hold on. Let me see if I can get it up.
But it's going back into the storm now. I believe they've turned around, so we're watching them, and we can see that
it's on Weather 3 too. If that helps, I've got that up.
Okay, so it looks like and the signal may go in and out. They're traveling on that portion of 64. Sometimes that happens. So we may see that kind of adjust a bit. But in general, he's heading right through the worst of the heavier rain. Okay, it is active.
Yeah, so
heading right into Corden here very soon, and then eventually back in the Louisville area.
So I want to give them just a little bit of instruction because they're going to have to punch through that heavy rain to make it back into the metro. So if it's safe to do so, they can speed up and come through that heavy rain again so that they're here in the city when it arrives. So we'd like them to be on the forward side of the rain, not the back side of the rain as it pushes into the downtown Louisville. And I know Ryan's communicating with them on the internal communication.
Yeah, make sure they got that.
Breckenridge County is quite a mess right now. I'll say that. There's so much heavy rain happening in that area, and it's all kind of, there's a couple of cell mergers that took place in the past 30 minutes in that area. So I could see why they got the flood advisory, and I got a feeling they're probably going to issue another one for the southern part there of Breckenridge based on what I'm seeing here. Because this is a tremendous rainfall rates that are happening. But as Ryan was mentioning, several of you have commented. We appreciate that. And please keep telling us what you're seeing. It helps us out, too, and knowing the ground truth, right? This cell has certainly gone up quite a bit. Just south of Hardinsburg. We're watching that carefully. Also into Meade County, a strong little push of wind there that we're watching. Weather Service is putting out special weather statements, we call it, in advance of these. They're all up there, just under the severe limits. About 50 to 55 has been the general tag on most of the statements. So they're just under warning status. And really, there's waiting to get an idea of some ground truth on whether or not warnings are needed or not. Either way, this is still special weather statements are still indicating impactful storms, right, that are moving through the area.
Severe thunderstorm warning.
Okay, there we go. And this is going to be out for
Harrison and Meade till 5:15 this afternoon. 36 minutes remaining.
That would explain a little bit more of that wind field that we were talking about in northern Breckenridge that has now moved into Meade and Brandenburg. So Brandenburg, Kevin, is right there into the highest wind potential as it moves on by.
Yeah, let's talk about this warning that's just now coming in. So it's getting closer to the Louisville Metro as well. You'll notice that severe thunderstorm warning goes until 5:15. So we have a 45-minute warning on this storm till its expiration time. Wind gust up to 60 miles an hour. We're really not concerned with hail in this. There is no rotation in this either, but it includes Brandenburg, Akron, and Mockport. So as this moves right along the Ohio River, northern parts of Meade County, southern parts of Harrison County, that is south of Corydon, as it makes its way off to the east. And that storm's moving, 35 to 45 miles an hour?
Yeah, relatively slow. So they're not moving overly fast, which is where the flooding issue comes into play.
The speed on this on the warning, guys, is 20 miles per hour per NWS Louisville.
So heavy rain falling over a period of time yields water rising. You could see the amount of moisture indicated by our dew points. When we get into the 70s, we say, ooh, it is muggy. Mid 70s, that's oppressive. If you get dew points into the 80s, that is very rare. And it just becomes all out miserable. And we've had a number of dew points in the 80s. What typically happens with that is you get the explosive nature in the atmosphere. There's so much moisture content. It sort of wrings itself out with these thunderstorms that blow up. And then the dew points come back down. They don't go all the way down. They still stay on the muggy side.
54 miles per hour in Breckenridge County.
And small hail reported from Kathy out there in northern Breckenridge County.
All right, so now we're looking at some small hail. Obviously, it's melting as it falls. You can see the darkening skies over in New Albany, the thunderstorm watch in place, but more importantly, the warning that we now have. This is the first warning that we've had for our viewing area. It includes areas down in Meade County. It also includes southern Harrison County. Let's zoom into that storm. We'll point out a couple of features that we're watching. We've been keeping an eye on it. We said these cells were merging. It's moving slow. It is also producing a tremendous amount of wind in places. And you can see the pocket of that wind moving across Cicero, moving over toward Akron and Brandenburg. Those are the brighter winds. This is where we would have the greatest potential for damage with this storm. And it's a pretty large area, by the way. So it's Sirocco moving right toward Brandenburg. Akron is in the path of this as well. It's going to hug the Ohio River, eventually maybe make its path over toward Laconia. So that would be the zone of some very heavy wind that we're watching with that storm moving across Meade County. Here's the county line. So Breckenridge is not in it. It is Meade and southern Harrison counties. That warning goes until 5:15 as it's moving off to the east slowly, 20 miles an hour. So again, Heavy rain, a lot of wind. That's one of those pockets of wind we've been talking about all day that we're now starting to see come to fruition. Brian, any other data that you have?
Well, a very strong cell here. This is in Horse Branch, just outside of Grayson County. So we're watching you guys in Grayson as well. This may clip the southwest Caneyville. A lot of intense lightning in that pocket there. And the wind fields have been showing some strong wind gusts in that area. Not quite to severe limits yet. But it is certainly a notable wind gust that is moving right into that area, again, right around Horse Branch, and again, clipping into the southwest side of Grayson. So we're watching you guys. Let us know if you're watching from that area. I know we have a lot of folks in Grayson County. So if you get any strong winds or any wind damage there, that's helpful because that cluster of lightning is absolutely insane there at the moment. A majority of these 600 lightning, let me get it closer in so you can see it. Roughly, what is that? About 20, well, I'm sure it's more than 25. 200. Okay, there we go. 200 lightning strikes are taking place in that area. And again, we'll watch these storms as they move on in. The storm tracker is trying to keep up with it, Kevin, but it's traffic, as you can tell, is just not able to move very, very fast. And we got a new warning now. This is Harrison and Meade County. Severe thunderstorm warning is now out.
That's the same one.
That's the same one.
Yeah, it's odd. Did you guys get the same notification?
No.
Okay, I just did, which is really odd. Okay. Let's see. They're talking about the wind coming in. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. My computer has lost the internet, so everything just came back on. There we go. I'm getting everything all at once, flying in here. So
let's
sorry
switch
about that.
back over here and
repeating myself. Sorry
that's
about
all right.
that, Kevin.
We'll
Yeah.
let you get sort of reset there. As we take a look at the radar, again, it's moving ever so close to the metro area. We pointed out the storm tracker on the backside of the heaviest of rain coming up 64. It's trying to get through it so it can be here. Again, it's pretty much knocking on our door. So when we're looking at our SkyTrack cameras, we're seeing heavy rain. No severe weather southern Indiana, but I'm going to take you on this radar tour and point out right along 65 now, anywhere from Seymour to Scottsburg to Austin, Indiana, all the way down to Louisville. We have heavy rain, so traffic on 65 would be a mess as well, simply because of the heavy rain, the lightning along with that. It'll take about 20 minutes for that to pass by, and then things will relax just a bit, at least on the interstate. I'm going to pull the radar down as we go back into the metro. Notice a good chunk of, well, let's start with Floyd County, a good chunk of northern Floyd County and the far southern part of Clark County, including us downtown, seeing some of that rain and thunder starting to approach downtown Louisville. Additional storms down toward the Jefferson Memorial Forest. Those are expanding across the area. What's going to happen is these will all merge together. So the storms that we have along 65 plus the racing storms back out to the west of us should collide together within the next half hour to 45 minutes. And that means additional heavy rain potential. The warning that we have goes until 5:15 for Meade County. It also includes southern parts of Harrison County. The reason we have that is because of that pocket of wind we've been tracking. And I'll put the velocity on, and you can see that brighter blue. Let me zoom in so I can give you a few more counties that would, or a few more towns that would be of greatest impact to that. And I'm going to zoom in real tight, right into the middle of that warning. And as we get a little tighter, you can see it's right along 144 and 79. We also have strong winds approaching 228. So those are some of the roads as you go from Painville over to Brandenburg, and including Mockport. You'd be right in the line to see some of these strong winds, upwards of 60 miles per hour
warning,
possible.
Floyd, Harrison, Jefferson coming out now till 5:15.
So we've got a new warning that's on the way
Louisville,
out, and this will include parts of Jefferson County. Again, it's the exact part we were looking at. I'll zoom back into that, and you can see upwards of 60 mile per hour winds. So this is something, as warnings get issued, we oftentimes keep an eye on the wind speed. Sometimes you'll notice they increase. At this point, we're still keeping it at 60 miles an hour. This warning also goes until 5:15. So this now includes the western part of Jefferson County, again, with the collision that we were talking about expected to take place, and the forward motion of this pushing into the metro. We could have some strong wind gusts upwards of 55 to 60 miles per hour. That's Floyd, Harrison, and Jefferson that we'll be watching as that moves across southern Indiana into the Louisville area. Again, a A lot of people now affected by this warning, almost 1 million folks in the path of that warning. I'll go back to our home view here, and you're going to notice the showers and thunderstorms again within that line. Remember earlier we had individual storms ahead of it. Now they're all sort of merging together, and that's going to provide not only a push of wind for some, but also some very heavy rain, hence the flood warnings that we have, along with advisories that stretch across parts of Breckinridge County. The warnings that we have two. They both expire at 5:15, one for Meade County, southern Harrison, and then the other one for eastern Harrison, Floyd, and Jefferson, includes western Jefferson County. Brian?
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Looking at some of the cloud tops there as we're watching some of the storms that Kevin was talking about merging together there. But look at how tall some of these are, especially the one moving into Grayson. Again, I'm still watching that. It's certainly got a strong wind signature there, but we haven't had any ground truth on that. But it is right there on it. I haven't seen a special weather statement yet for that particular one, but just kind of a heads up for those of you in Grayson County. That storm, again, being watched carefully. And as far as Louisville goes, and this is where, again, we're about to get into just a very messy scenario, Kevin, here into the metro, and get the radar back on so you guys can see it. But this is really going to be now over the next, I would say, up to an hour, maybe 90 minutes, that we'll be facing some very heavy rain into the Louisville area coming into play. Weather Service noting that there is certainly a bit of a drop there into the wind coming in from Harrison County. That's the reason why they prompted the warning. We don't know how long that's going to last. So that's why these outlines or these polygons of the warnings are not very wide or long. They're relatively small in size. And the reason why they're drawn that way is that confidence is not as high on how long it would last out of a particular zone. So they're relatively small patches here along the line. And we may see that kind of be patchy and fill in as those cells kind of merge together, because the line that tried to pop in advance of it, Kevin, looks like now it's weakening, and the main line is taking over. It's kind of stealing the show, if you will, now.
Yeah, sort of, and some weakening and some merging going on there. And that's what we've had going on over the last hour and a half as this now line moves in. Again, a couple of severe thunderstorms embedded within that will continue to push through the Louisville metro area. I'll point out the winds on this, again, strongest, and I'll zoom back in so we can see those wind fields from the radar's perspective moving closer to the Louisville area. You saw the storm tracker. It's just on the back side of this. We're going to try to get it through here so we can show you what it looks like as it moves in, even though it may not make it through that storm in time to reach Louisville. We've got our cameras situated where we can show you those as well. And Ryan will take us through those in a second. Meanwhile, we have the strongest of the winds moving right past Lanesville. We're going to start to see those winds gust right across far eastern Floyd County. And that would include New Albany and eventually into western Jefferson County, from Shively to PRP down to Valley Station, as this system moves closer to us. If you've been watching us over the last several hours, we've been on since 3 o'clock. This is not a massive severe weather outbreak. With the Olympics on wave, we do not have our normal newscasts that we would have throughout the afternoon. So we wanted to be here to give you and walk you through this weather that's moving in. Heavy rain, lightning, and now in some cases strong winds, and we could have some powerful wind gust with these storms passing by. That's one storm that has a severe thunderstorm warning, and that includes the metro area. That goes until 5:15, so 25 minutes. We also have a pocket of even heavier wind down to the south, now approaching Brandenburg. And I don't know if we've had, let me go back out to our...
Harrisburg is at 40 miles per hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to check. In fact, I'll do it while I'm zoomed in, see if we've had any storm reports of any type of wind damage. None in that view. Let's go to our home view to see if we have any strong wind reports of types of damage that we may have had. And you can see some wind damage coming southern parts of Perry County and then back out toward Evansville, where we had some of those very strong winds. But in our viewing area, of course, the storms are just now moving in, and they've been fairly weak off to the north. They're just now intensifying into Louisville and across parts of Meade and Harrison counties. Let's go back and check additional reports.
Hey, Kevin, we've just had a report from Brandon Smith here on X, I should say. Very small tree limbs down in Hardinsburg from earlier. Little items on the porch got blown around. Very heavy rain now in the Hardinsburg area.
All right, Hardinsburg, right down in parts of Breckenridge County. You work into Meade County, you get into Irvington. We have, again, trash cans tumbled over. These are twigs and branches that have been broken. MPEG reports coming in from northern Harrison County, so it's right along just north of 64. Same story just outside of the viewing area back along the Western Kentucky Parkway. So we have had some wind with this as it's moved through, but you can see it's not everywhere. There's not damage along that entire segment. There are pockets of heavy wind, and there's heavy rain and a lot of lightning falling with what's moving through. So again, your weather alarms are going off. We've got the severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Jefferson County. We also have it for parts of Floyd and Harrison, and another warning down across Meade County. This will continue to push off to the east, moving at about 20 to 30 miles an hour. That slow movement sort of helps aid in additional rainfall. And that's bad news when you've had a week of rain. That means flooding becomes a potential. We have had some power outages, and let's go over to Brian for an update on those.
All right, and it's this map will continue to evolve a bit as the storms move on through. Look at the darkening skies. You can see it on the SkyTrack camera. That's from downtown Louisville. All right, let me show you some of these. We'll start into Breckenridge County, where we've had some of the strongest of wind. About 300 customers without power in that area. Crawford County just got lit up at 215, 3% of the county there. You get into Washington County, about 120 that were without power. We'll get into Orange County, about 166 at the moment. Let me get you back to the radar. Actually, let's show you the SkyTrack. We'll go there. I want to show you downtown Louisville again on the SkyTrack of the storms that are rolling into downtown Louisville at the moment. You'll be able to see some of the really darkening skies. I mean, very heavy rain. Now, you're going to get some strong wind gusts, certainly with this kind of a configuration, kind of a wiggle as it moves in. Watching Indiana here, could be a strong push of wind trying to develop right into New Albany, into downtown Louisville. Can we show the SkyTrack?
Yeah, let's put SkyTrack full,
because that push of wind is going to head right into the camera here. So
there it goes.
That is the shelf cloud there we're watching, and that's where you got the downburst. You see it, and then to the left-hand side of your screen. But Kevin, and we're going to have to keep an eye again on that little bar that we have on our radar at the top of the wind gusts when it gets to Ollie International, and see what the wind fill will be when it hits. But once that line you see in the sky gets over us, that is when the strongest of the wind will take place. And it does look like it is powering up, Kevin, getting stronger, actually, just west of the downtown area. So we'll watch that as it pushes in. The thing is, we've got several tools in this area. What's New Albany look like? Are you in New Albany?
Yeah, let's get
now?
New Albany up here. So if we can take SkyTrack again, we'll be able to see New Albany here in just a moment.
Okay, there is New Albany at the moment. We have, it's not quite...
That's Paristown, but it's going to New Albany. There we go.
Okay.
There you go.
It's right over now, getting into the court. You see that line or the darkening cloud right at the top of the camera.
I'll move this around.
As soon as it gets over the camera, that's when the heaviest of the rain and the wind is going to hit that camera lens. You see the YMCA there at the bottom of your screen. Is yourself. You can see some of the heavier rain. Just
look at that shelf
west.
Cloud.
Yeah, look at that. It's quite impressive. Now, you can see the flag's not blowing very strong yet, but it hasn't really arrived at that exact spot. We'll see what happens when it gets over. We were kind of cautioning about this, though. You're going to see some very scary looking clouds today because of the moisture content, and the lightning is going to be a very purplish look to the lightning, and pretty intense as it moves on by. You're going to see a lot of cloud to ground lightning strikes move into the area.
Hey, can we take Marty's shot real quick?
Yeah.
Marty's shot has a looks like a shelf cloud on it, according to Christy, who's our assignment editor here at Wave. Just real quick there, if we could take that, guys. I'm not sure which live source that's going to be in here, but that would be Marty Pearl's live shot there. If we can get that, guys, up.
I'm asking the control room to do a lot of things so we can get into NBC.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Bear with us here. I think what I'm watching is NBC. They've got some rain going on in the Olympics. If we can jump in while this is going on to be able to give a quick update and just we don't want to
actually have the MCS going through France. Brian was showing me that earlier. Moving through there. So they're dealing with the same kind of weather that we are.
So I'll just have them, if you can double box us while they're in a weather delay, we'll jump on and we'll get right back to the game. But with these storms moving into Louisville, I'd like to at least give a quick update to our viewers. Is that possible? All right. They're going to let me know. Again, they have to set things up. It takes a minute. So you're sort of watching the behind the scenes of what's happening. And by the time we get it, they could be at another sport where there is no rain. So all of this is exactly what happens in the daytime when we're here trying to give weather information. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's not, depending on what's happening behind the scenes. But we do still have the warning for the Jefferson County area. It comes into western Jefferson County. That warning goes until 5:15 this afternoon. Additional warnings continue on the southern tip of these warnings. So we're not going to be able to jump in because they've gone back to the break, it looks like. So when we come back out of that, Jen, just let me know. We'll be ready on our end. So as long as you're good, we can make sure we give at least an update to the folks watching at home. The storm's moving in again, watching that wind gust. Not there yet, but gusting or winds at 13 miles an hour. We would suspect we'd see a wind gust a little stronger than that, probably on the order of 35 to 45 miles an hour as these storms push in. That said, we're seeing it across western Jefferson County. Some of the stronger winds also moving into parts of southern Harrison County at this point. The velocity points that out. We've been noting that the wind is easing. Remember, we had the lighter blues moving past Brandenburg. That's eased just a bit. And the winds moving in this severe thunderstorm warning, the one including downtown, Valley Station, PRP, that one also showing some signs of weakening as that pushes a little closer to us. But the rain is very heavy as it's pushing into Metro Louisville. It's rush hour, 5 o'clock. This is going to make for a very slow commute this afternoon. Brian?
Yeah, did we still have that camera at the, was that a live at the Street Rod National? Was that a live image earlier, or was that video of the cars? I didn't know if we had. Okay, because there is a thunderstorm developing right at that point of the airport at the moment. It's a small one, and you can see it. That's Kentucky Kingdom there on the right-hand side. This is a separate from the main line. So I'm not sure who's there at the fairgrounds, but you may see darkening skies on two sides of you at the moment. You should see it toward downtown Louisville, and you should see it right there at the airport. That is near the Watterson Expressway down toward the outer loop. At the moment into Fern Valley Road. This is where we've got the separate cell. Again, this is a separate one from the main line, but boy, that's an ominous looking sky. About to get very heavy rain. You see all the cars, they covered them all up. You got a lot of tents out there, so let's hope the wind doesn't get too strong with so many tents and folks out there. But I don't see a lot of folks. It looks like everybody's gotten into a safe spot. And that's important because we're going to have some lightning and some very heavy. Look at that downburst wind, though. That is, or the down draft and the heavy rainfall. That is a very impressive shot. So we'll be monitoring that feed as it moves on by the area.
And Jacqueline, by the way, is in New Albany. She says her power's flickering right now via social media here.
Okay,
so,
and we're going to probably see that come into play as the stronger wind moves on to the area. So we've got a separate cell in the middle of Jefferson County, right there into Okolona, heading toward, I would say, the Linview area and Poplar Level Road to Preston Highway, not far from the Evergreen Cemetery area on Preston Highway there as you get toward Gray Lane. And then you get into this wall of wind that we're watching heading right to the radar beam as well, that it moved into the area. But we haven't any confirmation, Kevin, of anything that is severe on the wind gust side. We're waiting to see. But look at that shot. It's just amazing to see.
And the latest gust is just come in at 28 miles an hour. So we said maybe between that 35.
And that's a separate cell that's done that, it looks like. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see the next wind blast come in behind that. Again, juggling a couple of things here. They're in a weather delay over in France because of some heavy rain that's falling there. We're going to see if we can jump into that coverage just to give a they've moved to a different sport, so we'll have to come back to that, and we've got another minute, and then we'll give about a 90-second update on the main channel. So you're watching our streaming coverage. It's coming up on 5 o'clock right here. You can see we've got thunderstorms moving through Louisville. There is a severe thunderstorm warning that encompasses areas west of I-65. Another severe thunderstorm warning, northern parts of Meade County, southern Harrison County of Indiana. So 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, both for wind, upwards of 60-mile-per-hour gust possible. We've not achieved that yet, but we have 1 thunderstorm near or just over the airport, sort of expanding. And then the next really wave of wind, which is why the warning is out, will soon follow, and that's going to come in, and our wind gust should go up just a bit more from that point. Right now, most of the wind gusts have held just below severe limits, but they've been close in some places. And we have had some minor damage coming in along with a few power outages. Nothing like what we've seen the last couple of days when we've had thousands of people without power. But in this instance, we still have the opportunity to see some wind gusts that could take out power. You can see they're trimming up the warning just a bit, but that warning still continues for parts of Floyd, Harrison, and Jefferson. That will go for another 15 minutes until 5:15, and then we'll see if it gets extended. We are noting that we have that little bowing segment. That's oftentimes where we find the strongest of the winds pushing in. But when we just checked the velocity, it was, again, nothing too outrageous. It was slightly below severe limits. Our cameras are also very helpful to us in this. We have the storm tracker that's out. We have a camera out at the street rods, and we have 10 SkyTrack cameras in a variety of places across the viewing area. This is the storm tracker coming back into the city. You'll notice that's on 64. A little bit of rain there, but nothing like the rain they were in earlier.
We might take SkyTrack.
Let's take SkyTrack full, yeah.
SkyTrack full is going to show the, again, heavy rain falling downtown, and then the street rods also showing that heavy rain pushing closer. Let's watch that in those tents. The tents will give a very good indicator of the wind that's moving in to that area. Again, the camera you were watching with the heavy rain downtown, but you can see the street rods are covered up. You better get inside, buddy. Get the scooter, turn it on high gear. Good. Yeah, he got that thing cooking, doesn't he? He's hyped up his own little
storm
scooter
tracker right there.
I mean, that dude was rolling. You'd expect that at the street rods, right? I mean, they got them everything going fast. All right, a nice little SS Super Sport there covered up as these storms move in. We'll see if the plastic holds, but the heavy rain pushing in. I think, again, if we can keep a camera up with us, that's going to be the best shot because we can see the tents. So get us in a 4-box, 3-box, some kind of box where we can see the camera outside, and that'll give a real good indicator of the strength of those winds as it moves through. I see the storm trackers coming back into some wind. We'll swap that image with the one at the fairgrounds. And we've just taken a power hit here downtown. So our equipment's coming back up. We're still on the air. I feel certain. I don't know about streaming. Are we on?
We're streaming. We're good.
All right. Okay. So we're still good. That's good engineering right there.
Our engineers are in here right now, so
that's why I said it.
Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. So again, the winds kicking back in for us here have knocked our power briefly out downtown. We'll work to get the street rods, as you can see on the screen there. A lot of folks now seeking shelter as these storms move closer. So the question will be, as the skies darken there and get ready to unload with a lot of water, will we see wind with this? You'll notice the tops of those trees beginning to sway a little bit. And the strongest of the winds at this point have been on the order. Hey, Jim, will you reset these monitors? Maybe just unplug the back. There you go. Thanks. But no, wrong one, the top two. But we do have, and Brian, I'll let you jump in and talk here. I'm talking blindly, but we have the heavy rain moving in, but it's really the wind that
yeah, and for that
we're
shot
starting
that
to see pick up.
Madre, it's going to take a bit to get to that point because, again, you got a storm east of where this camera is now that is located a little more on the Waterston Expressway, getting a little more toward Poplar Level Road.
Jeffersonville now 38-mile-per-hour gust.
38, okay. And that's... Okay.
Right. And there's the wave weather garden outside.
We got our umbrella open. We should probably close that.
Oh, no.
We have our own rules on that one, do we?
But luckily, we're sort of shielded back there.
Yeah.
But notice the rain. I mean, heavy rain just now picking up downtown. I mean, those are some big water drops.
Well, there's actually a new development now just west of where the fairgrounds is in the street rods. That is just now popped in. That's going to be right over Iroquois Park. As you get into the area, you can see
Notice the wind kicking up.
It just formed right over them in that area.
That car's like, I'm out of here.
So that is going to be nasty here.
Let's watch this. Don't lose this shot because you can see the wind kicking up. It really is those tents. I mean, they can handle winds of 30. You start getting into 40, 50-mile-per-hour winds. If they're not completely tied down, that's a problem. Now, this isn't their first rodeo. Well, this isn't their first car show. So they've done that. All right, we're going to have to do a quick on-air update here. So here we go. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Waves coverage. I hope you're enjoying the Olympics this afternoon. This is our time to give you a quick weather update. We've got 90 seconds here to update you on what's happening. We do have strong storms moving in across the metro. You can see southern Indiana, where we have heavy rain and lightning. Severe thunderstorm warning for western Jefferson County, southern Floyd, parts of Harrison County until 5:15. New warning coming out extends that across the rest of the county. You're going to see that includes the rest of Jefferson County, including Jeffersonville, Louisville, Newburgh, 60-mile-per-hour winds. We've got cameras in a number of places. Let me show you what it looks like out at the fairgrounds where we have the street rods in town. I can point out that we've been keeping an eye on this, and Brian's been watching.
Got a new warning, by the way, Kevin, for the rest of the Louisville here, it looks like.
Yeah, just pointed that out. So we have that warning that will continue. But you'll also notice the covers on the cars there, the tents anchored down. This is heavy rain moving in. In addition to that, winds upwards of measured to 38 miles an hour, but they could go as high as 50 to 60 miles per hour. Brian?
Yes, and a new development, too, in that cell that's in advance of it. So we're watching J-Town, some gusty winds there, but no doubt winds will be strong at times, may stay below severe limits, but can still cause some tree damage. This line has had a history of doing just that, Kevin.
All right, back to the radar view. And you the plastic they had on the car is not going to last long. That's not the only live view we have. Our storm tracker's been out tracking the storms as well. This storm, again, expected to not only intensify, but get taken over by that line. And as that moves in, that's where we could see some strong wind gusts. Not everybody gets damage out of this, but there will be some pockets of heavy wind as this moves across Jefferson County. Additional downpours off to our south and to the north are sub-severe, but the warnings here for Louisville will continue, and that warning will go until 5:30 tonight or this afternoon. So severe thunderstorm warnings, Metro Louisville, strong winds the main issue, but we also have to be mindful of the potential for flooding. We can show you what that looks like across the area as well. We've been tracking the storms with the storm tracker with your comments. We've been on streaming. If you're watching the Olympics, you're not missing anything right now. And if you're interested in weather information, we've been on for the past 2 hours, and we're going to stay on for a little longer as these storms make their way out of the area on all of our streaming platforms. If you know where to find that, you can get us on the Wave Weather app, the Wave News app, or wave3.com. Click on the live stream. Look for Wave Weather Now. It's Louisville's only 24/7 streaming weather channel. So we're there for you watching these storms. Once again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning for Louisville, all of Jefferson County. That goes until 5:30. So we've got another 23 minutes left. It's alert day coverage. We'll have a complete update on Wave News at 6 o'clock. Now back to the Olympics. And for folks that were watching, we just jumped back into the Olympics. We did not interrupt any of the games, so we allowed folks to see it. They carve out about 90 seconds for us each afternoon to give an update. So that's what we were doing there, in case you thought maybe it looked a little disjointed. So again, the warning has been extended, as you heard me say, across all of Jefferson County, and that will go until 5 o'clock or 5:30 this evening. I'm going to zoom into that, and we'll take a closer view. First of all, we're curious about rainfall rates and also the wind speeds that we have moving across Jefferson County. When you look at this, the heaviest of the rain still falling in Louisville. The leading edge has passed us, and we can see those wind gusts that move through the fairgrounds. We were viewing those live as those sort of kicked up. And you can see some very strong winds still moving not far from EP Tom Sawyer Park, J-Town.
41 mile per hour at Bowman Field, just reported.
Yeah, that's a very strong wind gust.
St. Matthews, this is where it's at. That's 41 mile per hour winds as we continue to track that off to the east. Where is the storm tracker? Does anybody have any idea?
It just came back up.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, we lost them there for a minute, but it looks like they're coming back up.
Are we going back?
Okay.
15. How long is the hit? I got you. Thank you. So we're going to do another update. Here we go. Stand by. 10 seconds. We're going to just do one more quick update during the Olympics here. Hi, everybody. Wave Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned here with our whole team tracking these storms. We just had a 41 mile per hour wind gust out of the St. Matthews area over at Bowman Field. You can see that strong wind traveling right along 64. So Tom Sawyer Park down toward J-Town, that's the strongest of the wind moving through. Again, this is just a quick update. You're not missing any of the Olympics right now. So just hang tight. We'll get you right back to it. You're missing nothing. But we do want to give an update for those that may not have social sources that that can find us on our digital stream. We want to keep you up to date. We've got the heavy wind and rain moving through. Measured wind gust out of Bowmanfield, 41 miles an hour. Our gust at the International Airport, 29. Again, seeing that heavy rain move through. Have we had any reports of damage, Brian? Any?
No. Not yet, we haven't, and we're monitoring that, but I got a feeling because we're getting so many different reports of power outages and flashes. We've had them here even at the station and downtown Louisville. I think we're going to get some delayed reports. I think it's just so active right now with the heavy rain and lightning, Kevin. It's probably a little tough to get those reports in.
Oh, you see the imagery behind you. That's the Street Rod Nationals going on out at the Fair and Expo Center. Some of those cars have been covered up. Some of those plastic pieces have been blown off. We have had some wind gusts, but all in all, still staying sub-severe. However, the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place will remain in place until 5:30. Another 20 minutes on that. If you're looking for weather information, find us on our digital stream. It's Wave Weather Now. Back to the Olympics. So again, back to the Olympics for the folks that are watching at home, and for those of you on our stream. Again, you can find us here all the time. We provide weather updates whenever there's an alert day, a number of times throughout the day. We also provide that with nonstop coverage when we don't have our traditional newscast, when we have active weather moving into the metro area, which is what's going on today. We have the one warning that remains in place.
43 miles per hour at Ollie.
Yep, so you can see that gust. Just updating there. So 43 miles an hour. That's what we've experienced. Sometimes it takes a minute for the computers to ingest the data and then kick it back out to us.
We've got a tree down on 260 or 264 right before the Fort Knox exit. So that's Southwest Louisville on the Watterson tree down right there.
All right. So maybe the storm tracker can find that for us. We'll communicate to them. Tree down on the Watterson Expressway. And where was that again?
That's right at the Fort Knox Dixie Highway exit there.
So
according to a viewer here, Christy Dean, thank you to you.
All right. We appreciate all the viewers as they help. That's a great way to interact with us when we're on our streams. If you're participating on social media, whether that's X, whether that's Facebook or Twitch, we wind up seeing your comments, and that's very helpful to us in severe weather. We always say we can have the most powerful radar, but there's nothing like a set of eyes on the sky. Ground truth, always the best.
Trees down all over St. Matthews, according to Julia here. She says it almost looks like a microburst. She used that terminology.
It looks that way. There's a cell that merged right there. It had the line that was a gust front that moved out of Harrison County into downtown Louisville, kicked with the wind at the fairgrounds, and the cell interjected right at the same time. And I think it's what really got that enhanced wind right into eastern Jefferson County, Kevin.
We were talking about that merger potentially taking place when one would take over the other. And oftentimes when those cells merge, bad things happen. In a high shear environment, you can get the rotation spun up tighter. In an environment like this, where we have so much moisture in the atmosphere, you can get those microbursts that take place. It essentially sort of slows it down and the wind drifts out of it. And that's probably what we've seen.
Wind's getting stronger, actually, there into Middletown.
Yeah. So, make sure we have the storm tracker, and I think Ryan's communicating with them. But let's either wherever we have the worst, we'd like to see it just so we know what's happened.
Yeah, we're directing them into Louisville as we speak here.
So either we'll go on the Watterson, but most likely if we can confirm any of the damage over in St. Matthews, that would be helpful. I'll also ask our news department if you're making calls, if John, Myra can get some of that information, we can share that with folks on the stream. So I know if we're working with St. Matthews and they've got a number of trees down, we would like to hear from the local enforcement agencies that are working on that to keep everybody safe. Again, busy time as we move across the entire area. Let me center this back up. I'm going to zoom into it and then we'll take a closer view. Brian, I see you're doing the same thing. We're going to look at the wind and let's talk about this together. I'm going to just zoom in. We'll zoom in tight. Let me put on the velocity here so we're both looking at the same thing. Obviously, we have heavy rain, but the pocket of heavy wind is now right over Middletown and another one probably moving toward J-Town.
Yeah, and actually southern Oldham County as well, wind is enhancing. So I got a feeling they're probably going to be deciding here what to do with this in the northeast part of the county, because now we just relayed the report because it gives you guys help out. When you tell us what you're seeing as far as wind damage, we're able to get that to the Weather Service. They're able to analyze that, and that does help for downstream effects of what will happen as we get into northeast Jefferson County into Oldham County. But I got a feeling, even though there's no warning yet, I think everyone needs to be certainly in their safe spot there into Crestwood all the way down to the northeast part of the county along the Snyder.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised even further down toward Hillview. Some pretty powerful winds on that leading edge there. And, of course, that's at the southern tip of that where it bows out just a tad. So a couple of pockets. These are those pockets of wind we've been talking about all afternoon. When you track those through Crestwood, Middletown, went through St. Matthews, even Louisville at 43-mile-per-hour winds, that can cause some problems. We've got a number of areas seeing some strong wind in addition to the heavy rain. I can put on our velocity, take off the velocity, put on the radar, and you're going to notice the heavy rain, again, spilling across parts of the area. Now, I'll put this back up. The storm tracker is making its way back into Louisville, so we can see the traffic is slowed just a bit. The heavy rain moving through all of Jefferson County at this point. Now, further to the south, you're going to start to see the uptick in the rain move in that direction over the course of the next 20 minutes or so. It's 5:15. The one warning that we had for western Jefferson County and the warning for Harrison and Meade counties has expired. The only one warning that we currently have in place would be for another 15 minutes, and that is just for the remainder of Jefferson County, so includes a good chunk of Jefferson County, and that is in place until 5:30. The rest of those expired. We still have flood warnings going on back across far western Kentucky, southwest Indiana. This is the show for today. Once this passes by, the threats of additional showers may linger, but the threats of severe weather will be going down, and then we'll have a few more storms tomorrow, but it won't be as robust as what we've seen the last several days. So today, yes, there's still the chance for pockets of wind, which we've noted, and we do have the severe thunderstorm warning for Jefferson County, and that is the only warning that we currently have. Brian?
All right, I'm watching some strong gusty winds, too, into Hardin County. We've been estimating winds there roughly at about 40 miles per hour right around E-Town. There's been a bit of a merger that is happening and a bit of a bowing, too, although the rainfall rates have decreased, which is a sign that perhaps we're not getting as much of a heavy signal on the wind field, but maybe perhaps a quick little downburst is happening in the northeast part of, say, just north of E-Town. You likely got a big burst of wind there that probably got up to about 40 miles per hour, maybe up to 50. Wouldn't roll it out as it moved the northeast part there of Hardin County, very close to what actually in between 31W and I-65 is there's thermal watching. In Louisville, we're also monitoring Fern Creek. In Glen Mary into J-Town, there is a bit of a wind push there that is happening. I would say it's very close to what we've had so far. It's been measured at the airport of about 40 to 50 miles per hour. But as we've seen so far, Kevin, with these wind events, even if they don't get to the threshold of 58 miles per hour, they're still doing damage. And we've repeated this several times. The soggy ground is one of the reasons why you're going to uptick that wind damage potential. You rarely get trees that will break in this scenario, but the whole tree itself will fall and become uprooted. That's where we run into problems. So you got to watch in your big older trees that may be a little more at risk at that.
All right, I'm going to put Mark Stevens on standby. We'll come back and chat with him. I know he's headed to some of the damage reports that we've had. We're still taking power hits downtown, but we do have heavy rain falling on the leading edge of this, some powerful winds that we've mentioned, Middletown, J-Town, and even down into Hardin County, as Brian pointed out. Likewise, while Oldham County is not in on the warning, wouldn't be surprised if they extended that a little farther to the north. Crestwood seeing some powerful winds at this point as well. There's no flood warnings or advisories for us here in Louisville at this point. However, some very heavy rain is falling. We have real-time information coming in from the Louisville Metropolitan Sewer District, so the MSD totals. We can take a look at some of these rain totals since midnight, and you'll notice some areas not far from Parkland, almost an inch of rain, half an inch of rain over toward Clifton, working your way up to Prospect, about a third of an inch of rain. Lower totals as we look to J-Town, but that is changing as we speak. All right, let's go to Mark Stevens. He's in the storm tracker. I know you guys are crossing back across the river, and that is good news. Where are you headed?
We're headed towards St. Matthews, Kevin. We're given some directions that a lot of tree damage towards Breckenridge Lane and Grandview, so we're going to take 64 in to get closer to there. I can tell you as we've come over here, or as soon as we got back into the metro, a lot more thunder and lightning. You know, after we came back into the storm, I can see a lot of water coming down. You can see it draining off of the interstate on the onto the ground below. A little bit of water ponding on the roads. but really we've just been trying to play catch up after we got through that heavy line.
Hey, Mark,
and have been playing catch up ever since.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second, only because I want to put you on during the Olympics here. So let's roll our open and we'll jump in with a quick update.
Oh, that was good.
All right. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned with you. We'll break into this commercial break and get you back to the Olympics in just a second. You're watching the storm tracker coming back into downtown. We pointed out we've had heavy rain falling with these storms along with some powerful winds. We do have some reports of damage. Mark Stevens is in the storm tracker. Mark, give us an update on where you're headed.
Headed towards St. Matthews, towards Breckenridge and Grandview. I can tell you as we're jumping onto 64 here, on one of the ramps from 65 that would take you onto 71 at the Spaghetti Junction there. Saw a car that had to pass through. It was shooting up a huge column of water. So that portion of the ramp is definitely partially flooded. We're heading to here now at toward the Story Avenue exit. We're hitting traffic. So traffic is definitely starting to slow down, but a lot of water on the interstates, I can tell you.
All right, appreciate that. We'll check back in with you when we come back to St. Matthews when you're there. Ryan, you have an update on some other damage?
Yeah, damage reports all through the St. Matthews area via Imping here. And you see they go all the way now to the Ford truck plant and into northern parts of Oldham County near Goshen at this time. We'll continue to monitor these damage reports coming in, and you'll see more images coming up on Wave News at 6.
All right, Brian, what do you have?
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on those wind damage reports. Breckenridge Lane and Grandview, as Mark Stevens is talking about. Be careful. That is heading right into Oldham County and to Shelby. No warning yet, Kevin. But we're monitoring carefully.
The warning for Jefferson County continues for another 10 minutes until 5:30. We're tracking it on all of our digital streams. Find us on Wave Weather Now. Back to the Olympics for those watching NBC and Wave. Yeah, we're back with you. So again, it's just a big volleyball match here. We got Olympics of our own going on today as we're tracking these storms. I want to put up the map that Ryan just had, and that was the Imping map where we had the wind damage. So let me show you that. That was impressive to see sort of that one area where we have a number of twigs broken, garbage cans. We have power lines here. I had a report not far from Sellersburg, 60-mile-per-hour winds there. So we do have some of that damage spreading across the county and even parts of southern Indiana. That will continue to move off to the east. So Floyd County, Clark County, Jefferson, and Oldham counties seeing a solid push of wind. Gusts now back down to 36 miles an hour here in the city. All right, back to our radar view, and then we'll go to our home view and just walk you through what's going on with these storms passing by. You can see
nice little gusts in southern Jefferson there. There's the outflow. You could see it on mine either way, but that is a bit of enhanced wind that may be pushing close to 55 miles per hour there from Fern Creek, along Bardson Road, near Highway 44 into Beloit County there. We'll see how long that maintains, but that is the outflow boundary aiming right into Mount Washington here in the next, I would say, 3 minutes.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. We've got a lot of things we're watching. Our SkyTrack cameras showing the rain easing at this point. New Albany, downtown, Kentucky Kingdom, still in the heart of this. I'm pointing out places where we have live cameras. That rain continues to be heavy from Middletown to J-Town, Fern Creek. Rain one part, wind the other, and we have had a lot of wind with this. You can see that sort of area that Brian was just mentioning, and including what we have going on in Middletown. So that zone in itself is the strongest wind zone that we have, intensifying more than what we've seen throughout the day so far. Again, heavy wind passing southern Oldham County, now moving into western. Can we fire up the camera view from Simpsonville?
There it is right there.
Oh, beautiful. And that's Simpsonville. We should start to see that wind pick up. Again, Simpsonville on the west side of Shelby County, that wind moving right at it. The stronger winds may appear, as Brian mentioned, from Fern Creek down to Mount Washington, but obviously this will be another zone. Our camera here is at the outlet shops of the Bluegrass, and this is where we're noting the heavy rain pushing closer to us. So as we pan the camera around, you can see the darkening sky. And now we're going to pan it back, and now we should be looking closer to the west. That is the western view, and that heavy rain starting to move our way along with another wall of wind.
Ominous picture there for sure, Kevin. Again, that's there in Simpsonville. I am getting a downburst signature in J-Town at the moment on the other side, so we'll see whether we get some strong wind reports in that area as it moves in.
We're getting reports of power outages, too, all over St. Matthews. Our own Shannon Cogan saying she's now without power.
Okay. Yeah, right there in J-Town to Fisherville. That's where we got down, but a little cluster of lightning too with that as well. But Kevin, I think Mount Washington, Keene Church Road, Highway 44 area, that's an area that I think we're going to get perhaps potential for some wind damage there, because that wind is getting up there. And again, we don't have to get to severe limits to get wind damage today. So we get over 50. It seems to be the threshold I'm noticing. You get over 50, and we're starting to get, at that point, some trees down and power outages.
Yeah. Well, that's what we'll watch. Of course, a number of folks without power. St. Matthews, that's where we've had at least what we believe to be the strongest winds in the metro area. Trees down, some power outages coming in from that zone as well. Again, the newsroom, if you have anything that's coming in that we need to share, we're happy to bring in anybody that has that information, as we're just streaming this to all those watching.
About 9,000 customers without power in Jefferson County right now.
9,000.
9,000.
All right. So again, power outages likely
down 20 degrees
going to go up. Yeah, I noticed that on the storm tracker. I mean, you can see our wind gusts are going down, obviously, from the airport because the heaviest of the storms are past it. But the temperature, I mean, we're now at 73. So we were at 93 earlier with that heat index closer to 105 to 110. Again, let's jump in. We'll give the folks watching an update. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned with you. We are keeping a close eye on the Olympics. You're not missing any of the games. We want to give you a weather update as we track these storms through the area. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for another 5 minutes. We have had damage coming in, especially from the St. Matthews area. We know power is out in many places. There are about 9,000 customers in Jefferson County without power at this point. The showers and thunderstorms continue to move through, the strongest of which happens to be across parts of Jefferson County. I'll zoom into this and we'll take a closer view of what's happening in Louisville. Our wind speeds here have been on the order of 40 to 50 miles per hour, and in some pockets where we do not have exact measurement could have been higher. So we know we've had some strong winds pass by. That continues to be the case for some folks. I'll put the velocity on our maps here, and you'll point out that we do have pockets of wind passing by Mount Washington, moving into parts of Spencer County. Heavy wind passing now into Simpsonville. We have our SkyTrack camera in Simpsonville. Can show you what that looks like as those winds move in and the skies darken. We're about to see some heavy rain push across our camera at the outlet shops of the Bluegrass. And Brian, you see it there. Yeah. This has meant business in terms of wind over the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, and it's, you know what? It's not just wind. I've been noticing too, the lightning count has really gone up along this band of thunderstorms. In fact, get ready, E-Town into Shepherdsville, Lebanon Junction. It is going to get loud. A lot of lightning increasing there, and the lightning count has certainly increased across the eastern side of the city as well. It's rush hour, Kevin. It is quite a mess out there with the heavy rain moving through.
Well, you're looking at some of the views from our storm tracker. They're making their way over into St. Matthews. We've got some power outages. We've got trees down in places there. Mark Stevens is on board there. We'll check in with him as soon as he reaches a place where we have some of that damage. The good news is, by that viewpoint, at least we still have the street lights working. We've got 30 seconds left in this update, but if you're looking for continuous weather information, we've been on since 3 o'clock this afternoon on our streaming platforms. It's easy for you to find. You can use iPhone, iPad while you're watching the Olympics, keeping up to date. You're going to look for Wave Weather Now. It's our 24/7 weather live stream. It's Louisville's only weather live stream, and you'll find it at your convenience. Whenever you need it, we'll be here. Now back to the Olympics. All right, and we're back with you here on that live stream I just mentioned. Severe thunderstorm warning, Jefferson County, another 3 minutes on that. We also have a flood advisory that's coming out for parts of Jefferson County. It looks like this will include parts of Clark, Floyd, Jefferson in Kentucky. All right, so we'll get more on that. If I zoom in, I can show you some of those rain totals that we've had going on. In fact, if I look at the reports and then go to the MSD reports, you'll notice, as it zooms in for us, some heavy rain. Downtown, we've had over 1/4 of an inch in the Highlands, almost 3/4 of an inch of rain, and then higher totals pushing over toward J-Town, about 1/2 an inch of rain. Some areas picking up more than that. It's a push of wind and rain that we've talked about. When we look at some of the wind damage that you've been reporting this afternoon from what we call imping, easy to find, we can show you what that looks like, and you're going to see parts of Jefferson County. Notice the power lines are down, twigs, garbage cans blown. So you can see our legend up here. Haven't seen any uprooted trees or things destroyed. That comes with higher end winds, but we have had some, and at least enough to take power out to some 9,000 customers across Jefferson County. So that's a pretty good blast of wind that came right across St. Matthews, now moving into eastern Jefferson County. That includes the airport. Let's go over to Brian Goode. Brian, when we were watching that sort of merger take place, we did note that winds ticked up pretty quickly.
They did, and it didn't take much time at all. In fact, it was the view really at the airport and the fairgrounds for the Streeterville Nationals we were watching for some of those stronger wind gusts that really enhances those cells kind of merge together. There is what we call the center of a circulation of the MCS itself. It's a broad circulation, but the center of this whole thing that's driving all of this that you see on the screen, this is the bad boy in charge, and it's moving right over Madison. Again, rotation right now is broad, but you likely are noticing a lot of weird swirling going on with the clouds, a general broad rotation there in Jefferson County, Indiana, into Trimble County. And again, it's not a tight rotation scenario for a tornado, but it is just the center of it all, Kevin, as it moves on by. And the storms continue to be, I mean, look at the lightning count is really increasing there across Bullitt County, southern Bullitt County, northern Hardin County. Again, that's not a severe weather element, but it no doubt gets your attention, and it's causing some power outages. And I think that's kind of the reason we had some of our flashes here, even at station. Yeah,
we lost power 2 different times. The severe thunderstorm warning has now expired for Jefferson County. No additional warnings have been issued at this point, though we continue to track some of that damage that has been left behind across parts of Jefferson County, including the Seymour, or I was looking at Seymour, including the St. Matthews area. Now, we've got the storm tracker out. I want to put up their vantage point, because as that makes its way across parts of Breckenridge Lane, Grandview Avenue, you can see that we do have, or do we have a chance to go again? Let's do it. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned, Brian Goode, Ryan Hoke. We're all here. Mark Stevens aboard the storm tracker. You can see the traffic is backed up in parts of St. Matthews. We've had some wind damage. Let me get to Mark Stevens first while we're in the middle of the Olympics here. We're just breaking into a commercial break, so we're going to get you back to our coverage. Mark, tell me where you are and if you've seen any damage. We have had a number of reports of trees down near the St. Matthews area.
Yeah, we've seen just a little bit of tree damage so far as we're coming into St. Matthews. We're at, what street are we on? We're at the intersection of Morningside and Lexington. Saw just a couple of dead limbs down. I think what's happening is we might be heading into the areas that have a power out. It's hard for me to tell yet. That's why I've got the camera on the roof of the car zoomed in. Where I'm at right now, there are still some street lights on, but I got to imagine that it's backing up because of not only just afternoon rush hour, but if there are lights out, street lights out. Still a lot of water coming down. There is a little bit of road ponding, but we're still working on trying to get you more specifics on what we can see from the storm tracker as we get to St. Matthews.
We appreciate that. We'll check back in with you, Mark. You mentioned power outages. Let me go over to Ryan Hoke. He's keeping up with all the power outages that are coming in from across the metro, Ryan.
Yeah, Kevin, these power outages are somewhat substantial. Here in Jefferson County right now, we've got over 9,000 customers without power. That represents about 2% of customers tracked within Jefferson County. You'll see the orange county up there. That is Scott County, Indiana. And right now, they are reporting 11% of customers without power. That's over 1,200 folks up in Scott County, Indiana, without power. In all of these counties you see shaded in yellow, at least 1% of customers are out. This may continue to grow, Kev.
All right. Appreciate that, Ryan. No current warnings are in place. You're watching the Olympics. We hope you're enjoying those. We're going to track these storms through here. Brian, we know how fast these can sort of increase in momentum, and that means additional strong winds are still possible. The watch continues.
Yeah, this is not a tornado setup. This is a downburst wind scenario, and I'm watching another push of that strong wind. Radar estimates of 46 miles per hour as you get into LaRue County. So we are watching, you guys. I'm not seeing a lot of lightning there, so I don't see a big concern at the moment, but certainly a lot of lightning to Bullitt County with some gusty winds near Lebanon Junction.
All right. Appreciate that. We're working hard to make sure you know what's happening. We've been streaming on our 24/7 weather channel, Wave Weather Now, throughout the afternoon. We're going to stay there at least for another half hour. Hope you'll tune in to Wave News at 6. That'll be coming up with complete weather coverage and the news of the day. For all of us here at Wave, I'm Kevin Harned. Our weather coverage continues on Wave Weather Now. All right. Appreciate everybody jumping in there. And here we are with the storms rolling through. No warnings. That's the good news. Now we're sort of in assessment mode. We're looking at what damage has taken place and where we have pockets of heavy winds still. The top edge of this becoming a little more jagged, but as Brian pointed out, we still have, and we would expect some of the greater fuel to be on the southern flank of this. Obviously, that's where we do have one warning. So the southern storms typically get the energy, and we'll be watching this. As this sort of flattens out, it will be repetitive rain across several areas. Places have had a lot of rain over the last couple of days, and that simply means flash flooding will also be a concern for our southern counties. So forward motion on this takes the at least massive floods out of the area, but the wind still a little bit of an issue. To our south, could be a wind and flood issue for a few folks. Happens fast, got to be prepared. We're looking at the latest wind gust in Louisville, 30. We've had higher wind gusts this afternoon. The Street Rod Nationals, we've been keeping an eye on those folks. They've got all their cars out. Some of them attempted to cover them up. But with those strong winds moving through, some of the plastic was, boom, completely swept away. You can see even on that little blazer there, the plastic did not hold. However, on some of the others, we have it. The good news is those tents that we were watching, Brian, are still standing. And that was a worry. You start to get 50, 60 mile an hour winds. If they can get under those tents, hasta la vista, they're out of here.
Yeah, and usually it gets really bad when you're caught off guard. Now, the difference, they were fully aware and they were prepared. They've been aware of the situation all day. I hope most of you have been, and they were able to get everything secured as much as they can. That makes a difference when you take those extra steps, which is why we have alert days to begin with, is so you can take those extra steps and prepare. Kevin mentioned the southern part of that line. I am watching that carefully. I do not see any severe wind gusts. I've been marking some of the spots. I know it's hard to see there, but gusts have been averaging about 40 to 50 miles per hour as drifting on by. The strongest wind gust we've had has been in Hardinsburg at 54. That's the strongest wind gust in the state of Kentucky that has been measured so far by the Mesonet. And we had at least a gust that was potentially up to 60 in Owensboro earlier. But in our viewing area, 54 miles per hour into portions there of Hardinsburg a little earlier, Kevin. So again, no warnings, as you mentioned, at the moment, but these are certainly strong and they're close. They're getting up there and still could be causing some problems. No doubt this is an area that's had so much rain in the past 4 days that we could get some flood advisories if this slows down a bit. But right now, I think the forward motion is on its side. So we'll be watching it.
Yeah, that's good news. Things seem to be easing just a bit. Looking from the emergency managers, I can see that some reports coming in out of Grayson County. They've got one tree down. It's over the road, not far from Big Clifty. So that'll be one problem spot in Grayson County.
Reports of structure fires in Highview that is coming in at the moment. We're going to get more specifics on that. But again, that's just now coming into our system as well. All right.
And we should let the newsroom know about that. So multiple calls in for structure fires in the Highview area for folks familiar with where we're talking. You'll notice the storms, again, weakening a bit, but still propagating forward with some wind and lightning. In addition to that, we have had the heavy rains. That continues to our south. There are no severe thunderstorm warnings in place. Our temperature has dropped 20 degrees. We've got many crews deployed. You saw the view from the Fair and Expo Center with the street rods. You also noted that we're making our way slowly to St. Matthews. Traffic is a little bit backed up. Again, the street rods hanging on with what has been a rough afternoon. Some ponding of water on the streets, but it's not slowing the cars down a whole lot. Look like we might be on Grandview Avenue somewhere
New
close.
warning coming out, Bullitt,
And
Nelson,
I see it
Spencer.
popping in behind us here, so we can take that as the new warning comes out. This will be including parts of Bullitt, Nelson, and Spencer counties. You can see that was what Brian was just mentioning. As we go back to that warning, you'll see it expires at 6 o'clock at the top of the hour. That is a wind speed of, again, 60 miles an hour. So we see that pushing in. Let's take a look at the velocity on this, and then we'll discuss with the, and you can see
it's Lebanon Junction area, just east of there. That's the problem area.
Let me zoom into that a little tighter for folks that are watching in Lebanon Junction and for folks that may be viewing us from down in Nelson or Bullitt counties. I'm going to zoom into the peak of that wind. And again, as we track this area, that's the strongest wind, Poplar Level, Scuffletown. This is Boston. And again, not far from Lebanon Junction, right along I-65. It's right on the county border. So on Bullitt, Nelson County's line, it's going to take it towards Samuels, eventually move it over toward Bardstown. So some heavy wind moving to Cox's Creek. We also have a camera in Bardstown. So this is where our cameras become very helpful on days like today. When we have widespread sort of action going on, we're able to show you exactly what's happening in these communities. It doesn't always happen where our cameras are in the line, but today it has been. And we saw Cord and New Albany. There's the outlet shops of the Bluegrass over in Simpsonville. And we'll change that to Bardstown so we can be looking at these storms as they approach. And there you see the Bardstown camera. All is calm right now, but the skies are darkening. And again, Brian, this is what you were pointing out earlier, that heavy wind starting to again come back. It sort of eases and then it pulses back up. That's not abnormal.
I'm hearing from family members that on 65 traveling there into Bullock County, very, very difficult to even maintain control of vehicles because it is such a strong wind gust that came through and very heavy rain. So it looks like a pretty strong wind gust passed through Bullock County, not far from Shepherdsville and Lebanon Junction. So I got a feeling we may get some tree damage reports here very soon into the Bullock County area. But if you don't have to travel at all here, guys, please just stay off the roads, especially into Bullock County, Spencer County, all the way into Nelson and Shelby even. Don't travel out. Emergency crews are certainly now into response mode, trying to get to where trees have been knocked down. We've got reports of fires potentially. We don't know the extent of that. Maybe a structure fire into Highview in southern Jefferson County and Louisville. We're checking into that. So emergency crews need to get out. I know it's rush hour. If you're watching from work, try to just stay at work if you're able to, and just kind of let things calm down. Otherwise, if your loved ones are out in this mess, they're going to be late because it is just very slow go everywhere into the Louisville Metro, especially, Kevin.
Yeah, no question. You can see, again, we're tracking that pocket of wind out of the latest warning. That warning is a severe thunderstorm warning, goes until 6 o'clock. This is moving now into northern parts of Nelson County. That's going to take it through the Samuels area. And if you're familiar with 245, that's right at the exit where you get off at Claremont. So that's close to the Jim Beam Distillery there. You're going to travel down 245. That takes you right into Bardstown. So right through Samuels and into Bardstown. That is a heavy pocket of wind that could cause some problems. Of course, it's a very forested area with the Bernheim Forest. So trees possibly could be going down in a few places, depending on if those winds are indeed reaching the ground, which we can only assume at this point based on A, what the radar looks like, and what kind of damage we've been seeing reported today. Back to our home view we go, and I'll point out that that is the lone severe thunderstorm warning that we have. That forward edge has the greatest momentum with that one pocket that's moving towards Samuels at this point. That will continue moving across parts of Shelby County, Spencer County, and Nelson County. So Spencer and Nelson really in the focal point of that, stretches down with some gusty winds into LaRue County, but they weaken just a bit down that way. Again, heavy rain with all of this, powerful wind moving through, some lightning obviously included in that. Back to the radar view, you can see it's on that leading edge. That's about 30 minutes of heavy rain as it passes by. In Louisville, our rain is easing, but we have had reports of power outages, especially toward the St. Matthews area. That's where we have our storm tracker on the way to. It's pretty close. In fact, I can show you the view from what it looks like there. Traffic is just very much snarled at this point because with some power outages, that means some street lights are out. Obviously, you can see the green lights looking forward.
And that's very much an above ground grid in that area of town too.
Yeah, you can tell that by just looking at the power lines there. Oh, well, and the foreground right there. Here I was looking at the green lights down the road, but look at the ones hanging right in front of our face. Those are out. So the power outages, this is right off of Grand Avenue and right in front of the Nansen Craft. If you look to the right, you'll see graders. How is it I know where all the graders are in town, right?
It was going to come up, yeah.
Oh, my.
So there it is. And you'll notice that the power lines are out there. And that's Willis and Breckenridge, I believe.
We got a flood advisory out now, it looks like, for Louisville.
Yes. Okay. All right. So again, with that rain easing, you can see in St. Matthews, there's not a lot of rain that continues to fall. When those lights are out like that, it's a four-way stop. So everybody has to stop and then you go. That's the rule. Some folks just plowing down the turn lane there, but whatever, just take it easy. It's not going to be easy to get to where you're going on a day like today if there are power outages. We have trees that have been reported down. St. Matthews Baptist Church is going to be up here on the right, Grandview and Browns. You can see the emergency lights there, an indication that the police are out because there are probably downed trees. Power lines. Always doing a nice job over in St. Matthews. They've got it blocked. We'll see if we can get in to show them what that looks like. You can see additional fire crews. We're going to turn down and we'll see.
Yeah, you can see the pole.
We can get set.
like.
So you can see that power line. Yeah, did you see it there?
Yeah. Yeah, we saw it leaning right at the turn, and it looks like a lot of at least trees into the road there. So we don't know if it's a large tree or just limbs down. Obviously, we got to get situated.
Yeah, let's go to Mark.
To get out of the tree.
Let's go to Mark on board and just explain to us what you're seeing, Mark. Okay.
Yeah, we just got to that intersection. Sorry, I'm trying to talk and
That's
adjust the
fine.
camera, and sometimes this is a little difficult. But here you go. Yeah, big tree, big tree. It looks like it's on that pickup. Oh, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong thing. Yeah, big tree. Look, it's hard to tell from this angle. I think it's on. Yes, it has. It's crushed the back half of that pickup truck. Obviously, we need to find out if there are any injuries here. Don't know that at the moment. Looks like a power pole has also been knocked. It's a skew. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. You can see the power pole will be on the right as I pan. There you go. So there's the power pole. Yeah, this is where the first scene that we've been trying to get to with Breckenridge. And I can't tell the cross street from the street sign over here, but yeah, it's been kind of hit or miss as we've gone through St. Matthews. I can tell you there are lights out at Lexington and Cannons, Lexington and Bauer, Lexington and Cornell was significant street flooding. A lot of water coming up there, and then as you saw next to the graders, Breckenridge and Willis also had the street lights, the stop lights out. So slow going in a lot of places here as people are trying to get through. But this is the first emergency situation we've seen. I'm going to try and make a call into St. Matthews just to see if anybody was hurt at this particular crash where you've got a tree that has crushed the back of this red pickup truck.
And it looks like he was in motion.
I know. That's what I was going to say. And that's a huge limb. It's not a whole tree, is it, Mark? It looks like a big old limb.
No, that's a tree. Here, I'm gonna pan.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Well,
but
okay, limb, tree, limb, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it fell out or if it just tumbled over, but it's huge regardless. And I think you're right, Brian. I think that truck was in motion, and it's like,
the wiper is in motion, so that tells us that it likely was active when the tree fell on. But it did hit the back, so that is at least a good sign that it didn't hit the cab portion of it.
No reports of injuries, by the way, just in from our assignment desk on that particular situation.
Well, good news there. All right, we'll let Mark, maybe he can run across the street and just ask what's going on there. We'll come back to him. That's the most active thing we have going on.
I got another report here. This is off of Canterbury Drive in J-Town. A large tree has flattened a garage, tangled in live wires in that area. Again, that is in J-Town area. That we're watching as well.
All right. Well, maybe it's best to just stay in the storm tracker than getting out if we have wires down, especially at that other one that Brian's just mentioning. That should mention that. In fact, if you have to be around some of the damage, please note that if you see a down line that you need to call LG&E. That is an important thing with severe weather. We're still tracking severe storms, by the way. Most of them have been isolated this afternoon, much like in Louisville. It seems to be St. Matthews that's been hardest hit. We now have severe thunderstorm warnings off to our south, Spencer, Nelson, moving into Washington counties. That storm likewise has the potential to produce some winds up to 60 miles per hour. That can down some trees and power lines like what we've seen here in Louisville. It would be only in pockets. Let me zoom in.
And the wind is going up in Taylor, northwest Taylor, into western Marion as well. So that could be another spot we need to watch there. Even though we don't have heavy rain, it's a pretty strong wind gust there.
All right. So Brian's pointing out even further south where we have some of those strong winds. Let me go back into the velocity here, and we'll look at a couple of pockets of wind that we've been talking about. With that velocity on, we can see those. We're looking near Taylorsville, so that's a pretty broad area of strong wind, and even toward the Bardstown area, which is where we have a SkyTrack camera. Brian will punch the SkyTrack camera up. While he's doing that, let's go to Ryan, who has an update on damage across Jefferson County.
Yeah, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but this is kind of the brief rundown of what we've heard so far. Brian is talking to us earlier about the Canterbury garage being flattened there in J-Town. We've also got trees down near Gate 12 of the Kentucky truck plant there, Ford, near LaGrange Road in eastern Jefferson County. Of course, the structure fire in Highview that we've had a report of. This is near Rome Beauty Place. Trees down all over St. Matthews. Mark Stevens was showing that earlier. We have had another tree on a power line in Woodlawn Park. This is Olland Road, if you're familiar with that northern part of St. Matthews there. And then power lines down in Cordon on Old 135. This is the power outage map, and the most most impressive part about this that you really can't see until you query it here is Jefferson County is now up to 15,000 customers without power. That's about 4% of the metro Louisville area without power. We were talking about Scott County earlier. They earlier had an 11% power outage that is now back down to 6% thanks to the power crews doing all the hard work today. And the new outage numbers coming in from Nelson County, about 1%, 279 without power. That's actually Hardin County, excuse me. This is Nelson County right here. Bardstown, 1%, 195 folks without power. These will likely go up as we go to the south and east with these storms, guys.
All right, thanks, Ryan. We're looking at the winds coming into Bardstown. We can see them on our
the trees are bending
view.
now, yeah,
and you have the SkyTrack behind you. So again, the radar indicates it coming in, and there you see the SkyTrack camera. Still have power downtown, but the trees are starting to sway a little as this system moves in. Probably 30 to 40 mile per hour winds at this point. But again, in pockets, we start to see these more powerful winds that can develop quickly. And that's where we start to have those problems. That's what we saw.
55 mile per hour wind,
Shelbyville coming in at 55. So we look our way to the north. Again, looking at this velocity, we go up through Spencer County into Shelby County, Shelbyville, 55. That is just slightly below. And again, it's a little bit delayed because the wind would have occurred already, but that would have been just below severe limits, but close. And that's what we're seeing along this entire line that's moving through. So if this were to continue moving into Washington County, you would need to be next on guard and sort of on hold for the potential for severe storms to move in your direction. Additional strong winds, as Brian pointed out, across far eastern parts of LaRue County, down into Greene and Taylor counties of Kentucky. Here in Louisville, things are easing for us in terms of active weather, but the response to some of the damage continues to be very much alive and well. I'm going to go to our home view. I'm going to put our radar back on. As we look at the radar, the only warning outside of our viewing area is approaching Bowling Green. The one warning that we have across our viewing area moving across parts of Spencer and Nelson counties, and that will be in place for another 10 minutes. Brian?
Yeah, that's. I'm just checking with the Weather Service about that wind gust into Shelby. So we'll monitor that for those of you in eastern Shelby County, especially into Franklin, too. We'll keep an eye on that. A nice little push. You can almost see the Boeing segment. Remember, the driver in the seat is this little spin up here into Indiana. And this is a little apex here is where you're going to get your strong wind push as well. They can easily get over 50 miles per hour. We've already seen that measured. And then we've got another area of congestion of winds. It's really focused more in Nelson County than anywhere that we're watching. And it's more ragged as you get down to the south. But still, some gusty winds have been noted on the southern flank of that. So I think at the moment, Nelson County, Shelby, and Franklin, and maybe Spencer will add that. Though that's a corridor right now that seems to contain the strongest push that is moving out of this line, Kevin.
All right. Appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. Again, tracking these storms. We've only had a handful of warnings today. We've been on for now going on 3 solid hours. This is day 4 in a row with nonstop weather coverage through the afternoon. When we're not on with our typical newscast at 3, 3:30, 4, 4:35, 5:30. Typically, we'd be in our studio broadcasting news and weather. But with the Olympics on, you get the whole weather team here, making sure you can stay ahead of these storms. We thought we'd do that while the Olympics are on, and especially while folks, some of you getting ready to go back to school and trying to get out and run some last minute errands, you need to know what's happening. So we wanted to be here to give you that information. We're typically here watching it anyway. So we thought, well, let's just do it in real time and sort of bring it home to you. And we do that. If you have not found Wave Weather Now, some of you are watching on our social networks of X and Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. But we would encourage you to always have that with the Wave Weather app. It's handy. Sometimes we're not on those platforms, but we're always on Wave Weather Now, 24/7 weather. So just so you know. That's where it's at. That's where you should be getting it. So if you're watching on those social platforms, just know we don't control those. We're pushing it out at times, but the place we do control is Wave Weather Now. You'll notice that we do have the severe thunderstorm warning for another 8 minutes. That's strong winds that's moving in down that way. We've had some heavy rain too. I'm going to put on our rain totals here. When we look at rain totals from across the area over the last 24 hours, you can see some impressive totals. I mean, add this up through the week. Some areas have had 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. Many of you starting to see those totals update. Places down towards Shepherdsville coming in at almost 1 inch. E-Town over a half an inch. Litchfield over 1 inch of rain. These totals will be going up further to the east as this line moves through. But the good news is this isn't a huge flood maker. This is an area of rain that's moving. And that means it's going to move in and move out. And while we have some heavy rain with it for a temporary time, it is just that, temporary. It moves out. Now, the other issue might be the wind. And let's just talk about that with the velocity. And I'll go back to our zoom feature. And you're going to notice some of these brighter colors. That's where we have those pockets of strongest wind. And you're going to see that clearly shows up across parts of Spencer County, right over Taylorsville Lake. Very strong winds. Damage probably occurring with this. Wind gust, I'd estimate 55 to 65 miles an hour. Brian, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of that little tick that took place, kind of the outpush that took place with that downdraft earlier on, and then got that boundary. It's moving right into northeast Nelson County through Taylorsville Lake. I hope everyone's off the lake. I know it's been a hot day today, but things have changed fast, as you might suspect, all the way into Shelby County. And notice this little outline here you see over Louisville. This is a flood advisory that is out for the metro until about 8:30 this evening. A quick update on some of the rain totals. Prospect, 1.4 inches of rain. That means you've had, 6 inches over that in the past 24 hours.
Easily.
3/4 of an inch in Fern Creek, about an inch as you head into J-Town, and it kind of close to that, half inch and 3/4 of an inch or so into downtown Louisville. So the flood advisory is out. We mentioned yesterday, after that heavy rain event, these totals may not seem overly impressive on a typical rain day, but in a very saturated ground, it leads to problems. So poor drainage, the creeks, Beargrass Creek, we'll monitor that. And then certainly traveling on the roads, hydroplaning is going to be a big concern. And Kevin, that wind is really ramping up there.
I mean, that's
Spencer.
That's it. I mean, Spencer County is getting hammered with some strong winds. That takes you over toward, just off of Shelbyville Road, down toward Little Mount, Taylorsville Road. That Taylorsville Lake, that area is getting some intense wind at this point. Ryan's looking through the social media. We'll see if we're getting any reports from that. But I can tell you that is a strong blast of wind coming across parts of Spencer County. Northern and northeastern parts of Nelson County also going to be in on that. Anywhere from Chaplin over to Bloomfield, you're going to notice some of those strong winds, likely just off to your north. If that were to keep going, it would move toward the Lawrenceburg area, outside of our viewing area, and likely just south of Franklin County, the state capital. So we'll be watching that pocket of wind. That's one of those pockets that we've been talking about, right? Some areas get it, while we have the whole warning that goes all the way down to southern Nelson County, including Culvertown, Balltown, Bardstown, Cox's Creek. The greatest wind in this is up in parts of Spencer County right now. Let's go back to our storm tracker. I see some movement with, and I know Mark is coming back on at 6 o'clock with us, but while we're watching his feed, let's just put it up. The police just moved out, probably so some folks can move in to begin some type of clearing of that tree. And that's a huge limb. We were looking at the tree a while ago, and you can see the side of that massive tree where it fell. Some folks are out. The rain is starting to ease just a bit, but Brian, holy cow, it took down that limb, what appears to have fallen on top of a moving truck. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but we both noticed that the windshield wipers were up and the truck is in the middle of the street. So that's an indication.
We're totally, everyone's okay. We haven't had any reports of injuries from that, but what a story.
They just inches away, right?
Yeah, because that is a massive tree. That is, I mean, no doubt you could tell he was likely traveling in that right-hand side if it was indeed in motion and got shoved when the tree fell on. But it does indeed look like it fell onto the back portion of it, not onto the cab itself there. But that's quite the alarming shock to the system. And this happens a lot where you get these large trees and trees that fall when you're in motion. Doesn't always end up well, but it is terrifying because you just don't see it happening. It's raining so hard and it happens so fast. Sometimes it's lightning that causes it. Sometimes it is wind. But this is the kind of issue why we always say just when you get into a bad storm, if you can, just stay home and stay inside. It's not worth getting out because you get into this kind of a mess.
Hey, guys, we got a report here from Route 44 there in Spencer County. Got a couple good-sized branches down per our Ring home security camera there. So that's associated with what Kevin's got on the screen there.
Okay. Yeah, good to note. Again, we were expecting some of that damage to come in. You saw St. Matthews Police putting up the tape. Don't want anybody to get in there because there's also, in addition to that tree limb, pretty much the size of any appreciable tree, but down. We also have a power pole that's down. So what likely happened was
5 trees down in Shelby County. I don't know the exact location, but 2 have been on houses.
Okay, and that's coming in from the emergency management over in Shelby County. So we have a number of areas seeing trees down. That's likely occurring in Spencer County. We're at 5:58. At 6 o'clock, we're scheduled to go on with Wave News, and that means on our main NBC Wave channel. With the weather delay that they had in France because of the weather there, they were dealing with heavy rain. I'm not sure if that's getting pushed back. So if anybody's in the control room that knows, otherwise we're intending to start our newscast at 6 o'clock. We'll have a quick update on weather. By then, the warnings, at least current warnings, will have expired. We'll pinpoint this wind that we're watching across Spencer County, northern Nelson County. So we're going to a commercial break. At 6 o'clock, we come back up fresh with the news of the day, also with weather information for you. So I'll let the folks in the booth talk to me, and we'll roll through this. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll take a quick break, and then when we come back up, Wave News at 6 will begin. The plan. Is there a producer in the booth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And I need the plan.
With alert day coverage now. This is Wave News.
Right now at 6, all sorts of problems. Trees down, massive power outages, a wave weather alert day, strong storms hitting the Louisville area.
We're live with a look at some of the damage left behind and what you can expect for the rest of the night.
Watching Wave News at 6, I'm John Bowl.
And I'm Myra Ansari. Let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harned has been tracking the storms on our weather stream while you've been watching the Olympics. And Kevin, has the threat moved out of the Louisville area now?
It's moved out of the metro, but it's not out of our viewing area. You can see some of those strong winds. There are currently no warnings in place, but we do have some powerful winds moving across eastern parts of Spencer County, northeast Nelson County, moving into western parts of Washington and Marion counties. This is the velocity. So these are winds that we're watching, and there are pockets of wind that have caused problems today. We'll show you some of that in a second. Let me put the radar view back on, and I'll point out that while we have had heavy wind pushing through, we've also had periods of heavy rain passing by. While we're in the clear for Louisville, it doesn't mean that this is over. We still have another day to get through tomorrow until the front sweeps through here. Our team has been assembled since 3 o'clock this afternoon, bringing you live, continuous weather on Wave Weather Now. We've even been in between on the Olympics, and we've been bringing you some updates. You can see a new warning coming out as expected. This warning is going to include parts of the viewing area just off to our south and east. You'll notice that includes parts of Shelby County or parts of Anderson, Franklin, Mercer, and Woodford. So in our viewing area, it's going to be Franklin County. That includes the Frankfort area. Moving out of Spencer County, this still includes Franklin County. The airport there, I'm going to keep going just for a few minutes, so it's going to be just a minute. We have 60-mile-per-hour winds that are now moving through parts of the viewing area. With this new warning that's been indicated, that will go until 6:45 this afternoon. Tracking these storms, they've had a history of producing some wind damage. Let's go over to Brian Brian Goode. He's been keeping an eye on the wind speeds. In addition to that, we've been keeping an eye on some of the damage that's been unfolding across the area. So we'll check in with Brian and Ryan in just a few minutes. Just know that we have the severe thunderstorm warning until 6:45 this afternoon, guys. We'll be keeping an eye on it.
Okay, Kevin, now there have been reports of damage already after the storms moved through.
Wave News reporter Mark Stevens has been out in our storm tracker. Mark, where are you right now? How bad is the damage?
Well, I'm at Breckenridge and Grandview, about a block from St. Matthews City Hall. I'm going to just, I got to flip the camera and show you the most dramatic scene that we've seen so far today. That is a giant tree limb. I got out of the car and tried to take a closer look at it. I think it's about half the tree fell onto that pickup truck. There are no injuries. I have seen who I believe is the owner of the car. He was St. Matthews police were here. He got out and he was, he's inspecting the damage because that tree hit the back of the pickup truck over on the bed of that pickup. Now over here in St. Matthews, a lot of power outages with stoplights that are out, as well as some flooded roads with some street flooding. But this so far is the most dramatic scene that I've seen at Breckenridge and Grandview. A major tree limb crushing part of a car. Reporting live from the storm tracker, Mark Stevens.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. And you can download the Wave Weather app to stay ahead of the storm with customizable alerts and live radar. It is free in your app store.
Some of the news headlines now today. JCPS says it'll be sometime next week before parents will be notified to apply for transportation stipends.
Families who lost transportation when the district ended buses for Magnet and other schools, they are eligible. Wave News reporter David Mattingly finds that for some families, the clock is ticking.
Just 1 week from now, these new drop-off lanes installed at Mazik and other Magnet schools will be full of carpooling parents as this new school year brings some new anxiety. On social media, there are still parents of Magnet school students trying to find a carpool that will get their kids to and from school. And JCPS is still promising that a transportation stipend that was announced 3 weeks ago will be coming to some Magnet families who lost their bus routes. But at this point, the district is still working on getting information to parents on how to apply.
Coming up in the next week or so, parents will be getting some notification describing exactly what the process will be for signing up for these stipend programs. By the end of the month, they'll be getting another notification saying it's time to sign up, and they'll have to register and to see if they are qualified to get the stipend.
When that money comes through, the families deemed eligible will receive $5 every day their child attends class. Families with students receiving free or reduced lunches will receive $10. That means some parents could receive over $1,000 by the end of the school year, but will even that be enough compensation for waiting in carpool lines? David Mattingly, Wave News.
Now, we're learning more about the JCPS plan for early childhood centers this school year. For the most part, it's running the same as last year under new hours for students who need to take the bus.
But there is a new school included in the mix that fears their students may fall behind over the changes. Wave News reporter Alina Noakes has more.
Heiser Hearing and Language Academy has been in partnership with JCPS schools since 1971. Now, last year, that partnership helped them to not take a direct hit by the busing shortage. But with the new school year comes a new partnership agreement, and that's all changing.
Every moment at Heiser is a meaningful moment.
Meaningful moments that will be cut in half for JCPS students attending Heiser Hearing and Language Academy this school year as transportation changes continue. While the academy will operate on a 9 to 3:45 schedule for most students, those who get there and back by JCPS bus will only be able to attend half the school day from 10:30 to 1:30. During that time, students will receive a strictly academic experience. The time before and after will be for what JCPS calls enrichment opportunities for those students not reliant on bus transportation. The Academy's education director, Debbie Woods, says they will be following the guidelines JCPS has put in place, but with one exception.
Well, how we're combating this is we are not only open 3 hours. We will go from 9 in the morning to 3:45. If you can drive your child, you can have all of that. It's free of charge. We are not charging anyone.
Wood says the enrichment opportunities like music and art therapy aren't extra under their program, but rather critical to their specialized education for the deaf and hard of hearing community. She fears a lack of access to those opportunities may have a negative impact on her students as they enter public school.
And when they enter kindergarten and you get a much larger class and different children coming from everywhere, will those children that only receive 3 hours, will they be successful? Did they get everything they needed? Did we do our job?
The academy averages between 30 to 50 students a year. Last year, they enrolled about 17 JCPS students. WAVE has confirmed that all other JCPS early education centers will also be operating with the same instructional requirements, just like they did last year.
All early learning centers are set to go back into session on August 29th. We're going to have JCPS's comment on this story coming up at 7. Alina Noakes, Wave News. All right, thank you, Alina. Still to come here on Wave News at 6. Residents at a senior apartment complex in the West End, they are fed up after years of issues and no answers from management.
We're going to share how they're taking a stand when Wave News returns.
Yes, I got you.
Couldn't get PTZ at all.
This newscast is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Now, Wave News.
A top LMPD officer who had the power to speak for the chief has resigned after somebody launched a complaint against her.
Wave News troubleshooter Natalia Martinez breaks this story after speaking with the department and her source.
You may not recognize the name Yolanda Baker, but you would have found her standing next to the previous LMPD chief. She was her adjutant and had a lot of authority within the department, at times calling shots. This time, I've heard she's called in her resignation.
Yolanda Baker was the previous LMPD chief's adjutant with the ability to call shots and speak for the chief. But we have learned Baker quit the department effective immediately following accusations. LMPD did not go on record about the details of what they called an incident. But here's what I can tell you, according to multiple independent sources. They told me there was an argument between Baker and an adult, a civilian who works for the city, at a youth event on Tuesday where the mayor was also attending. That escalated, they said, to the point where the other person involved filed a criminal report against Baker. LMPD did confirm the existence of that report, but that's as far as they went. They told me as of right now, there are no charges filed and she's not been arrested. Baker was also one of the highest paid members of the department. According to city records, her salary went from $61,000 in 2022 to $87,000 in 2024. And in the last 2 years, she'd also made more than $48,000 in overtime.
As of for the report filed against her, again, no charges as of now, but my sources within the department tell me that that can change once the report is actually investigated. I have reached out to Baker for her side of the story and will update you if she responds. Natalia Martinez, Wave News.
Natalia, thank you. Now, some people living in the Russell neighborhood are taking a stand against their rental company.
Tenants at the Mount Lebanon senior apartments, they're forming a union. Allied Argent bought the complex back in 2021 and secured more than $1 million in government funding to renovate it. And despite that, tenants say that they've actually removed security and accessibility features and never replaced them. Some residents say that they're living with mold and infestation of poisonous spiders. Tenants say that when they bring issues up with management, they are met with attitude.
You try to ask the property managers something, and they just sit there on the phone. Then they smile in your face and stab you in the back at the same time.
And the new union chapter says that they want management to follow through on the promises that they made when they bought the property. We've reached out to Allied Argenta for comment. They have not responded.
Well, next at 6, we're tracking severe weather on this alert day. We've got one severe thunderstorm warning, keeping an eye on over near Frankfurt. We're going to go through the wind, the flood, and the damage all when we come back on Wave News at 6.
County, we're out of power.
Yeah, and we've seen how devastating some of the storms, the damage from the, we saw Mark showed us that tree on top of the truck, and pretty wild out there, Kevin.
Yeah, let's just get to it. We still have storms moving through. This is Bardstown. You'll notice down in Bardstown, we do have rain that's slowly easing. The winds have eased as well, but we do have strong storms still moving across the capital city over toward Frankfurt. That is a place where we've had a number of areas of lightning strikes too. So really several things we've been watching, but currently the severe storm continues to move off to the east. It's moving out of Shelby County, moving into Franklin County. That storm will maintain its intensity for just a bit longer, so severe thunderstorm warning continues for Franklin County. That's the lone severe thunderstorm warning that we have at this point. When we look back to the home view, you're going to notice very heavy rain, some wind with that system as it pushes through, even down into northern parts of Washington County. But back into the Louisville area, it's just down to light rain, even though we have a few rumbles of thunder, even with those lighter rain showers pushing through. We've had a lot of rain today, and in some cases, that's causing some problems. Let's go over to Brian Goode for an update on that.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we're actually hearing that rolling thunder even now here in downtown Louisville that continues. We do have flood advisories throughout for the Louisville Metro as well to the east. We see that blue outline. That's going to cover a good chunk of Shelby County through Spencer County all the way into Nelson County, and we still have the flood advisory out for southern Perry into northern Breckenridge. In the Metro alone, it has not been an enormous amount of rain as far as one particular event, but we had nearly 2 to 5 inches of rain yesterday, and now we're talking about 2 inches of rain again in Prospect. That puts Prospect at 7 inches of rain in 24 hours, at least 1 inch of rain, if not higher, over much of Jefferson County. That's leading to some ponding of water and some hydroplaning issues. Ryan Hoke?
Yeah, we've had some wind damage reports as well, guys. In fact, you'll notice all across Jefferson County and beyond here, lots of folks reporting in from Emping, wind damage to trees and power lines, trash cans, patio furniture, especially up near St. Matthews in eastern Jefferson County. It's a long list of some of the power problems and trees on power lines. Of course, we've had a garage flattened by a tree in J-Town near Canterbury Drive. Yikes. The power outages continue. You see Scott and, of course, Spencer counties there with over 10% of customers out. Here in Jefferson County right now, 13,280 customers, about 3% of folks without power. That's a little bit down from 15,000 that we had earlier, Kevin.
Yeah, still a problem, no doubt about it. We've got some of the street lights out as well. So be careful if you have to be out. Let me zoom into the area that we've been watching. This is where we have those powerful winds. And if you've been with us on our stream, extreme all afternoon. You know, we were talking about the velocity where we had strong winds, especially moving across parts of Spencer County. Look at this, now moving into northern parts of Washington, taking over toward Lawrenceburg and Frankfort. That's Franklin County. These pockets of heavy wind we've been watching, that can do some damage. So you've got to let these storms pass, not only because of the wind, but because of the lightning. Technically, the severe thunderstorm watch is still in place, but that threat ending as this line of storms passes by. We're down 20 degrees. We were in the low 90s. That heat index was above 105 for many of us today. 73, the current temperature. Lebanon, still at 90. Look at our dew points. We had some of these in the mid 80s today. That's almost unheard of. That's crazy. That's a dew point temperature. It gives us an idea of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. We're still very high. We've had the repetitive pattern with us over the last several days. We still have to get through tomorrow, but it looks a little bit less concerning than what we've had the last several days. Our scattered storms, there's a possibility for a few of those early in the morning before the sun comes up, and then again with the heating of the day in the afternoon. Scattered storms possible. On the Futurecast, you can see that. This is the early morning round. That fades away. Some sunshine. It's hot again in the upper 80s, but not as hot. Still humid. Scattered thunderstorms on the backside. That comes in later in the evening on Friday. We are drier for Saturday and Sunday. Means lower humidity as well. Temperatures will stay in the low 90s early to mid next week. Another front moves in late next week. That could take us back into the mid to upper 80s as you look at the extended part of the forecast. In the meantime, we're keeping an eye on what's happening now as we have been all afternoon. This is the Wave Weather Alert Day, but the threat is moving out of our viewing area. We'll take a quick break. We've got more Wave News here at 6 when we come back.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. You did.